Has we'll call it back in, and remembering that we're on page 51. Just so that everyone does know, jokes aside, my apologies. The latitude from the chairs, Councillor Finch can partake in this afternoon, but when it comes to us going back to page 35 and doing those last two, the mop-up ones, she wasn't here for all that deliberation. She can't vote on those last two, just as long as we both all know where we're at. Okay, West Otago Health Trust. Lily, do you have anything you wish to add?
Taken and thread.
Questions for Lily, please. No questions. Matters open for discussion. I should settle down, West Otago. We're going to scratch this around a bit.
We don't really, because it's just a target rate on people with Otago, so it's only her and I that need to decide it.
Yeah, but we're allowed to make comment as
Well, you can,
people
that's
in the
not-
district, and I saw that Councillor Phillips's hand was up. Did you wish to say something, Councillor Phillips?
John.
It's too scared now.
Councillor Catherwood.
Well, I'd like to just move this along, excuse my comment. And, yeah, it's the transition of a loan and West Otago Health Trust and away they go. So I'll be in full support of this.
Yep, 100%. Okay.
Going back to Michelle.
We can use
Moved Councillor Kennedy, seconded by someone. Councillor Phelps. Any discussion? Put the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Thank you. A Waka swimming pool. Lily. Nothing? Questions for Lily, please? No questions?
I'll ask a question.
Right then, Councillor Catherine.
Just the question would be probably to Sharon, the total amount that the district pays towards swimming pools, the ratepayer pays.
Okay, so for this year that we're talking about, we currently have 1.5 million being rated for swimming pools. And through the swimming pool business units, not the ones we pay grants to.
So we collect off the ratepayer 1.5 million in total?
Correct.
Okay. My next question would be, in our report in the last year on pools, the operational budget for the Clutha pool was 635,000.
The rates we currently rate for the Clutha pool are 1.1 million.
Yeah. The operational budget was reported in the report at 635. Is that correct?
I can't say exactly, sorry, because I'm not looking at that, but there will be a portion of loan funding in that 1.1 million as well. So
Yeah, I think the loan I think in the report was 242,000. And then the operational at Milton was 252,000.
Milton we rate 291, but I can't say exactly what from sitting here what that's made up of.
Okay.
Without looking at it.
Those are the reports.
Any further questions, team, before we head into discussion? If not, move into discussion. Can I say from my point of view, over the last 15 years, I think as a council we've really come together as a district to hunt as a pack. And there are different facilities and different needs, and every town has its own priority list. When you come to swimming pools, we've got one and about to be two swimming pools, but Clutha and Milton that are 12 months, they have to be resourced different, they're just different. And then around the other swimming pools of the district, what I've always wanted to see is that those Netwee community groups that have their 3 months, or it could be 5 months, or whatever they choose to do, that they're adequately resourced so that they can run their swimming pool operations the way they wish. What we've got here is something that is, to my way of thinking, just a step too far in the fact that when we do the swimming pool review, if it's determined that what the swimming pools of the Clutha district need is 50% of the UAGC, or 45%, or 12,400, so whatever the amount is. But when I read that there was an $11,000 surplus from the Awaka swimming pool, and good on them, they're a neat group and I applaud them for it. I then have to ask myself on behalf of the ratepayer of the district, why would I be, because if it's coming off one, it's going on to the other, there is an effect. If they don't need it, why would I give it to them? And if they do need it, identify the issue in the report, and we will acknowledge that and vote accordingly, or the new council will vote accordingly when it comes through. But there is nowhere here that justifies to me 50%. Is it 40%, 32%, 80%? Do the whole report, work out where we're going long term, but we're jumping in one step too fast here.
Great.
Councillor Catherwood, followed by Mackie.
Oh, obviously I disagree. The 11,000 was actually currently where the accounts were at. And it was told to you at the submission process when they started in front of you that we still had a power bill to come, which that one came in at just under $3,000. And then we're also now heading into winter maintenance. So all that 11,000 gobbled, it's gone. So where I was getting back to asking those figures of taking $1.5 million off the ratepayer towards swimming pools, and then for what you get back to your actual district, is there's 1.5 taken, and the operational loans come in at just under 1.2. So there's 300,000 sitting in that pool fund, which will get spread over operational and council and all the rest of it. And I'm just wanting this to charge to actually move ahead, because the review hasn't been done. We were here a year ago. We've got another pool coming up again over some wages. There's no wages paid in from council. It's all done by volunteers, and we want to continue to improve our facility. And we're seeing, we've got growing numbers of people using our facility and enjoying our facility, and we're just struggling on the funding side. And I think, to me, this is a very fair way of getting 50% of our UAGC, because remember that we pay on top of that again to actually use our pools. We're paying to subsidise other pools in the district, which is absolutely fine. But if we've got a larger portion of the money that we actually pay back to our community, it would make it a lot easier. Now, in fact, our pool ran for 7 months. That's what we're dealing with. We would like to even run even longer as a pool.
Councillor Mackie, followed by Mackie.
It's the Clinton poll didn't put a submission in one day late. They put one in the long-term plan with regard just remembering the community pools. I think they said it was along the line. There's an X amount of money taken out of these small districts that go towards the running of the Balclutha pool, which is subsidised to the tune of about $30 a swim. All that Awaka are asking for, and we communities should ask for, I think it's a great starting point. Half of that UAGC input that these districts do back. After all, in the area of when this Milton pool comes online, there's going to be another pool that is going from being open for the season, for a certain season, time of season, to being open full time for swimming. So that money is going to have to be either increased, or it's going to have to be spread even thinner. Clinton gets $4,000 a year to run its pool. We run cattle, we run stuff. We're not here at this table asking for money. but I don't think we've been treated fair as well.
Opposition at the moment is councillor McAtamaney.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I am sympathetic, being part of a small community too, and having been part of full committee and funding, and so I am sympathetic to the amount of, or the lack of funding that we get. But I'm going to say that I won't be able to support this recommendation because I feel that what's being asked for, or that 50% UAGC funding, it's setting a precedent before we've actually done this pool review. And that's, so I'm sympathetic to the WACA pool requesting more money, but not to the logic of what they're asking for here, because we just have not done the work yet. And we may come up to some, and as the Mayor alluded, we're just not sure, and we may not, we haven't come to a conclusion as to how we will go about it yet.
Councillor Herbert, followed by Graham.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I think the common theme coming out of today is there's some work to do around the funding of pools and the funding of museums. But I understand what Councillor Catherwood's asking here, and he's initiated a good debate, but I can't agree with it because we're actually fundamentally changing the rating mechanism. And we can't do that through this process. That surely has to be a long-term plan process. We cannot do that today, otherwise it's going to throw the rating for those pools to the wind. So we can't fundamentally change the rating process during this annual plan.
Your Worship, just to be clear, the resolution, and there's no resolution in front of us, but it talks about funded from. There's many ways in which you can fund things from. Councillor Catherwood is suggesting something. There's other ways in which that can be funded. So the question you always have in front of you is, should you say yes to something, to a request, and then if you want to say yes to it, how should it be funded?
He's the principle behind his argument is that he wants to get half his UAGC back.
This request though is from the, like, let's not personalise it. The request is from Owaka Swimming Pool, right, to increase the operational grant by $19,000, right? So it's an operational grant, and that's what you're debating. You're not debating at the moment principles of this or principles of that. It's just whether you want to put $19,000 additional dollars into something. That's what you're debating.
Can't come from the UAGC. This year.
Councillor Graham.
Increasing 50% of the UAGC.
Hold on, guys. Councillor Graham, followed by Martin.
No, it's,
I'm sorry, and Councillor Luton.
Councillor Herbert basically said what I was going to say.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, followed by Luton.
Well, through you, Your Worship, I'm sure that everybody understands the pain that the Waka swimming pool's going through and what Councillor Catherwood's, well, not without personalising, is proposing, but it certainly reiterates today's earlier conversations about reviewing the pool and how important it is to our small rural communities. So, personally myself, the UAGC proposal was, we can't do anything until we've actually seen this review, is my opinion. And we need to be getting our community swimming pools in a position where they're funded, whether it's by grants or UAGC or wherever, that they get into a business model position, that they're self-sufficient, they can stand on their own 2 feet and be accountable and move forward and be progressive in their communities. So believe that this fast track this review.
Councillor Luton.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the same as what a lot is saying, fast track the review. This just highlights the need for it, and let's not get to next year's annual plan and be having the same discussion. So swimming pools across the district all need to be looked at and funded evenly to reflect increased operational costs that is happening. So at this stage, I don't support the recommendation, and I'd go as far as, are you ready for a recommendation?
Yeah, I am actually.
So the council does not approve funding to the Waka Swimming Bars for an increase in their operational grant.
Have a seconder, please. Councillor Phelps. Matters open for discussion. I want to stress that the only reason why I support this recommendation is because I think we're all the same. When the report comes back and the report shows, and there it is, and that's what we're doing, then let's do it. And we want to support our district's pools along with the libraries and the museums and the like. But we're going to wait for that report so that we get consistency, because right at the moment, if we take some money out of the UAGC, we take it out of there, it drops. It's going to do that, and there's going to be a consequence to it. I don't have a clue what the consequence will be. So the big thing for me is that the likes of the Owaka swimming pool know that we fully sympathise with their plight. We're trying our very best to get on top of it, and the concert. Councillor Crosty.
So, waiting for this, does it let us then look at the reviews, etc., then have the discussion about whether we go to the annual plan for the UAGC, Steve? Like, even if it was, say, 35%, whatever, can we do it in an annual plan, say, for next year, or does it have to go to an LTP?
So, no, if, for example, you just came up with something that said, hey, we want to increase the level of support, let's say 20,000 per pool or something, right?
Yep.
And it's to be funded by rates. That can just go through the annual plan. It's not a variation to anything, right, in that sense. But if you wanted to try and tie it and make any changes around to UAGC or anything like that, in terms of how funding is done, fundamentally, that may be then a variation of the LTP. So, you know, the review might come up, and if you just simply said we want to put more money in, and it's funded through normal mechanisms, that would just go through a consultation process for the annual plan. You wouldn't have to do an LTP variation for that, right? That's just putting more money into different activities that you've got existing funding mechanisms for. It's only if you were to change a funding.
So we'd then be able to have like an equal per capita. We could actually work that out off the funding per each of the.
So you through your worship, you wouldn't. You could come up with a whole new formula that you might want to get to determine an amount of money to go to individual swimming pools, right? And you could have a whole range of things, all complicated, and you can decide it's a policy, right? That in itself is that's not like an LTP variation in that sense. That's just how you want to allocate some money. But you would have to consult on it because it would have potential rating implications or other implications, right? But you would be consulting on that policy of this is how you're intending to distribute money and increase funding to pools, right? So that's an annual plan process, right? So that's how you would do that. It's only if we really get into the detail of changing the funding mechanism itself do we have to look at an LTP. So I fundamentally, like you could say that hey, let's agree that actually we'll take a proportion of the UAGC. You could just convert that to dollars and say our modelling is saying we're going to give this amount of dollars to pools, and then allocate it out, let's say through rates or something like that. That's not an LTP variation. That's just I'm going to put more dollars into something this way variation. It's an internal policy that you've created, right? But you would still want to consult with the community because ultimately you're putting more money into something, right? Which will be rates money or whatever. Hope that answers the question.
Are you putting more money in, or are you just reallocating money? You know what I mean? Like to reallocate the same pot.
The issue, through your worship, the issue will be we have to expect that the money that we budget for and allocate to, let's say, the public pools, the 1.2 you're talking about, councillor, or whatever, right, funded by the UAGC and the other mechanisms, right, we only should be funding what we're expending, right? So it's got to match. You don't want to overrate anything. So you must expect that what we're rating for is what it's costing, right? So if you in that rating decide you want to redistribute some of that rating to something else, you're still stuck with having to fund what it was costing, and that's going to be a rate increase, right, in some form. So There's no magic pot surplus or whatever. It's not because no matter what happens, it's not about us generating a surplus. We don't generate profit from that activity. It should be matching expenditure, right? So if you're going to redirect it by changing funding to something else, let's say other pools, you've still got a funding gap because that's what the swimming pools cost, the public pools, right? So there's nothing you can do. You've got to fund that and it'll have to be by rates.
But is that a lesser service then? So we're, those volunteers out there in the community, it's like unfair little playing field. You've got people that are putting huge amounts of volunteer hours into their pools. So is it that the pot doesn't change, that the funding, the overall pot stays the same size? Maybe it's a lesser service on the other side.
Yeah, well, whatever the expenditure is, whether you halve the expenditure because you're only going to be open half the time or half the staff or whatever, right? It's still matched to expenditure. That's a different decision that you may make through the swimming pool review.
Right. If there's not a counter or a new dynamic coming into the conversation, I'm heading off. Right, then you may want.
I'd like to make an amendment to the recommendation that council approves funding of $9,783 to the swimming pool. Increase to the operational budget, 12,530 to 22,513. Took 10 grand off.
So it's just a 10 grand off. That's the. Can I just see what it's in double?
From investment surplus.
Can you tell me what the original one was?
Does not approve.
What does not approve?
Really good last year, but don't you?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether it is a.
I'll amend it. It just does not approve.
You get it over the line.
Yeah, so you have made a change so that it's not a direct negative. Okay, I'll roll with it. I've got an mover of an amendment, taking 10,000 off and coming out of the where date?
Investment fund.
No? Okay, I need
So 10,000.
no, it would have been if he had gone from no to yes, but he's going from no to yes with a different thing. That's why I had to sit and we think about it. It took me a while, but I need a seconder, please. Seconded, Councillor Mackie. Mackie, matters open for discussion. Amendments open.
Can you reread the amendment, please?
So, okay, so the one that just now, the amendment, that council approves funding of $9,783 to Waka Swimming Baths in 2025-26 for an increase to their operational grant from $12,530 to $22,313 funded from the investment fund.
So need the increase, the 9,783 from the investment.
Not yet.
I thought you said 22.5, not.
No,
No, it's just 10,000
10,000.
taken off.
Yeah. The combined total is already 12 approved.
Amendments open for discussion. Councillor,
would this not set a precedent to the other swimming pools that get operational grants from the council as well, that have not got the opportunity to put this in front of council? So do they not be disadvantaged?
Who you asking?
No.
No, sorry, Your Worship. Councillor Volwell just said everyone's had the opportunity to submit, but we're talking about when I've changed here in operational grants, so the council actually is standing operational grants to numerous swimming pools in the district. But the question is, would they not be disadvantaged if this goes through?
yeah. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm just getting this in my head. Would this be a one-off approval for this annual plan, and then we reset when we go back to the review? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the resolution only has 25-26, councillor.
Yes.
1 year.
Because we haven't got to the review, so that's all changed the recommendation.
Councillor Herbert, followed by Sally.
I actually will support it for the simple. I think what's happened is a little bit of our judgment and our decision making has been clouded by this discussion we've just had around the swimming pool work that needs to be done. And this is just an operational grant for a facility that's in our area that, like everything else, is struggling a little bit and needs a little bit of hand up. I will support actually, because I'm going to forget about what's been said in the last little 10 minutes, because I think we've drifted off into what we were talking about. So I'm pleased you made the alteration.
From my perspective, and once again, nothing's changed. I want to support the swimming pool. But we've been hammering away all day long that we want a report done. And now we're setting the precedence that we're going to go 50% UAGC, and then whatever that amount is, we take $10,000 off. No, sorry. Instead of 50% of the UAGC, which comes to 19,783, we're taking that amount and then taking 10,000 off, which is making it even more complicated. We're setting a precedent. We still need the report to come through. We still need to get consistency right across the board. So consequently, yes, I want to support the Whacker swimming pool. The way we're going about it's dead wrong.
I'm forgetting that what's been said.
Councillor Finch, were you the next?
Yes, please. So we have 11,000 surplus at the moment, minus 3,000, plus maintenance for the year. How do we know what your maintenance budget is?
How do you know?
Yes.
Coombs are booked in to come out of Christchurch. So there's filtration sand and two filters. There's a strip out of seals on the old filtration side. There's a whole seal replacement to happen on that side of the pool.
So
it's winterisation of the chemical automatic system, fast speeds.
So do you have an approximate price?
Not until they've actually arrived and assessed it on site. So you know that budget is going to disappear. And then we've got a couple of lines lifting from the membrane glued in liner. There's black lines along the pool that's lifted, but that should be, there's a conversation going on that would still be under warranty aspects. So in the past, some of the winterisation maintenance that's gone on has been 6,000. But don't forget, it's also a committee that also wants to continue to go forward and continue to make improvements to the pool. So it's not money that's just going to sit there. It's going to be used for the improvement of our facility.
Okay, thank you.
Further? If not, I'll be putting the amendment to the vote. Is everyone quite clear what we're voting on? Okay, Julie, are you set to go? Remembering we hold them high. All those in favour, please raise your hands and say aye. All those against, please raise your hands and say no.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Now that the amendment's passed, it now becomes a substantive motion. Matters open for discussion.
I think there's only 8.
8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It should be 6. What did you get, Julie?
Yeah,
That's right.
That's right.
I counted it right.
Yeah.
How many did you have at start?
Yeah, no, 9 is right.
There is 9.
Yeah.
And there's 5, 1, 2.
Mine was supposed to vote twice.
Yes, there's no 5. We're done. Okay, so we're now voting on the substantive motion. That is open for discussion. I will reiterate my point that we have got a report that we're hammering away and we want to come. We're now setting a precedence that goes right against that report. And as much as I'd like to support the Whacker swimming pool, there should be structure and consistency, and we're moving right away from that. It's a blind guess because the 50% didn't actually equate to cost, and that's 50% minus 10,000. Doesn't equate. Councillor Mackie.
You're talking about consistency though, like you've got some swimming pools get 10,000, some get 12, some gets 4, so there's not consistency there anyway. So, but that's what the report's going to bring out. So this is only a one-off until we hear what happens at that report.
Any further before we go to the vote? You ready? Start. We're ready. All right. All those in favour, please raise your hand and say aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Your Worship.
Those against, please raise your hands and say no.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your worship.
Motion's passed. Thank you, team. Click the budget advice services. Lily, anything to add? Anything to ask Lily? No? Matters open for discussion. What today, team? So 5 years ago, somewhere around there, the food bank in the Clutha district, the main food bank, which was Salvation Army run at that time, closed down. And at that time, in desperation, we had 2 service agencies that we could go to see whether they'll pick up the slack, which was Anglican Family Care and Budget Advice. That's how fragile it is when the most vulnerable people in our district are needing a food parcel or needing assistance or needing to deal with a budgetary problem. We had Anglican Family Care and Budget Advice picked up the food bank. Since they did that, because they've joined, it's put additional and increasing pressure on their budget to the point that the budget's running in deficit. And we don't support our own, we don't support our most vulnerable. Who does? The consequence of us not supporting this could have quite wide ramifications, because the last time I saw the books of this group, they need the support and they need it right now. Councillor Kennedy.
I would not like to see anyone go hungry, but there are a lot of ratepayers over my district that probably wouldn't see anything from this, although I know the lady that came said there were people. We do run our own food bank in our area. My other concern is with this sort of thing. I realised last time it was through funding investment. You can't put it across UAGC. We have a lot of our elderly that are struggling to pay their rates now, so why should they be feeding everybody else when they need that little couple of dollars put on their own tables? As for using our funding, I always have this thing with, I don't know what you call it today, but I'm probably going to use the wrong terminology here, but there used to be a social side in our government. Obviously, it's not there anymore, and more of social welfare type scenarios, counselling, food, whatever, is creeping into our council rates, so that everyone is having to pay for everybody. In the meantime, you've still got our ratepayers out there struggling to get their own paid. I'm not sure about this one, where it lies for me at this stage, but I do know there's a lot out there struggling to pay their own, let alone to fork out money for extra.
Councillor Finch, followed by Ludeman.
Thank you. I had the question mark. Milton has a hub and they have food parcels and give it out as well. And I picked up about the Tapanui and had the question there of how much goes there. So if it's going on the UAGC, it's not being distributed evenly around the district. And that was just a question I had about it. I certainly do not want to see people going hungry, and think it is a brilliant idea for our district, and it seems we definitely need it more and more and more, as we heard from the person giving the talk. But I just, yes, I don't know how else, if it was from the investment fund, like it was during the long-term plan, then I think that would be a bit fairer around the district. I just wonder who else actually has food parcels around the district that are given out as well, so that it's not being given evenly. I know people aren't hard up evenly around the district. I'm not saying that. It's just to make it that it is fair, a bit more fair around the district. That was just my concern about it.
Can I just have the clarification going, and this is Clutha budgetary advice that do the food bank picked up from the Salvation Army, but it's budget advice that's doing it. They operate out of the Milton Food Hub. You will have seen Leanne there operating as they do out of Tapanui as well. Circulate right around the district with budget advice. They picked up the food bank in the lower Delta area when St John's went out of desperation when we requested them. So this is budget advice. Operates out the hub with Kim Schiller and the team. Ellie Ludeman.
I'd have to support this. The budget advice, we're given a bit of a bad deal, really. Nobody else would take this on when Salvation Army walked away, and they did. And it hasn't been an easy time as they had to relocate premises and even go and buy freezers. I mean, they were just left with nothing, but Clutha had no food hub, and they set up and did it. There's a lot of really good volunteers behind the scenes. I know through Clutha Budget Advice, if you look at the balance sheet, they do pay wages, but that's not only just for the food hub, that's actually part of their Clutha Budget Advisory Service. Their food hub is pretty much volunteer based by locals going in and helping. I mean, I went to their annual Toot for Tucker night. I was actually quite blown away, to be fair, the number of volunteers that they do have and the support that they received that night. Now, I know that Milton, Lawrence and West Otago have also all got very good food hubs, and they're well supported by their districts. I accept that. Clutha here, it does support outlying areas, Awaka, Clinton, it does support the other areas as well. Look, it's something that we shouldn't have to even be doing. The government should be helping. This isn't something we should even be having to discuss, but we do have to because there is a need. Unfortunately, there is a need, and people are never questioned for their first parcel, but as time goes on, I mean, they are helped, and I know that they do a financial mentoring program to try and help some of these ones be sustainable. Look, you probably don't want to hear from me, but I actually do support this because I think we've got a real, of all the submissions that we're looking at today, I just see this as a real need in our community at the moment, a sad need, but a need.
Councillor Grant.
I see the good in this and I see the need for it. I also see the debt that this council has, and that debt has been largely brought on by compliance with the government. And I think this is a central government issue and they should be listened. So I will not be supporting.
Councillor McTamaney.
Yeah, I got pulled up by Councillor Ludeman earlier today for remembering what happened last year. But I do remember this was quite a debate here again, and I actually moved to be passed last year from rates funding. And just reiterate again, coming back to, it's another one of those things that's popped up again. Investment surplus has been mentioned. I just reckon that anything that might be an annual needs to go through the rates. It might be an annual charge for the future. I'll probably be supporting it again. I know talk around the government perhaps should be helping more, but the fact is they won't be. So if they are going to be short, it's either up to us or other members of the public in the Clutha district. Yes, I know it's another burden on ratepayers, 11,000 ratepayers, but in the UAGC, $25,000. Or I'm looking at it, $2 of food per ratepayer. So I don't really have too big a problem with it.
Councillor McCrusty.
Look, I'm all for these things. I'm pretty involved through Lions with the Can Drive Wahola Milton, which goes to the Presbyterian Church. We've also got the hub in Milton, and what a lot of people don't realise as well, a lot of boards actually set up their own community pantry. Haven't asked for anything. People give, they take, they give it back. Look, all of our small towns are doing it themselves. I'm really sorry to say it. Clutha wants this, Clutha pays for it. Not Melbourne, not Tapanui, not, you know, that sounds really nasty, but all those small towns are achieving it themselves.
Can I just say once again, it's Clutha Budget Advice that does the budget advice right around the district. The food bank that they picked up was the Coastal Delta, but the Clutha Budget Advice is budgetary advice services right around the whole district.
But they're asking on behalf.
They're asking for associated costs with the food up,
Not the budget advice.
not the budget advice, the recommendation.
Right, who's that, Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I remember this debate quite well, yes, last year too, Your Worship, and it's sort of, this falls into the policy along with the swimming pools, the whole lot, where the criteria meets well within the policy that the current policy we've got, healthy, safe communities. But once again, I think this is not a ratepayer issue, this is a social issue. And that's the other thing we've got to look at it too, that we're elected members deliver good value for ratepayers. This is a social issue, it's not a ratepayer issue. So we need to, like we've raised the comment about the policy, we need to address the policy as well to give set us all clear boundaries for the likes of this, swimming pools and everything else. So I'm tending to lean that it's more of a central government issue than it is a ratepayer issue.
Councillor Mackie.
In this bit of paper at the bottom, there's our Clutha Community Garden. And I almost think this budgeting advice and food bank should be incorporated in the community garden, because if you give someone a food parcel, you feed them for a couple of days. But if you actually teach them how to run a garden and grow some of their own food, you feed them forever. You know, so I'm quite in favour of this community garden. You know, I have difficulties with this giving people continuous food parcels. Going forward, you're not helping them in the long term.
You ready for a motion? I'm ready to put a motion. Sorry. The council approves funding of $25,000 to Clutha Budget Advice for offering 25-26, funded from investment interest.
For the moment, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Volwell is seconding. Open for discussion, team. Councillor McTammany.
Again, I had to counter this last year.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with the investment surplus. I feel if we're going to go down this track, it's probably going to be with us for several years. Like I said before, central government is not going to.
Okay, I'll go with you.
Amend it.
I'll amend mine to coming out of the UAGC.
So no longer investment account, UAGC. Who seconded that? Someone did. Councillor Volwell, you're happy with that? Right, we're now changing the discussion to the money at a UAGC. Any further discussion? Right, put it to the board. You ready, Julie? Yeah, questions.
So that UAGC, Steve, that is, they're not going to be 100% UAGC, or is that 50-50 because it's based here and the majority of the clientele would come from within the lower Clutha community facility? You know, they're what most benefit.
We would never, through you, Your Worship, we would never fund this sort of grant other than through the district-wide grants. It's not a community facility, so it would be unusual, and the only way we would have to do it would be to put it through like Parks and Reserves, which would be a very strange place.
Okay, are we ready to go to the vote? Are you ready, Julie? Okay, all those in favour, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
7, your worship.
All those against, please raise your hands.
7, your worship.
Oh,
Comes down to the casting vote of pass it.
Can you put your, can those against put your hands up? I thought it was being clever there. It's going to go better than that.
There were 7, Joel.
7.
I've just got
You
all the
abstaining?
notes.
No, there's 14.
Because Gaynor's here now, we haven't got that split number from this morning.
7 all.
Yeah, he's used his custom vote
Use the custom vote.
To approve it.
Yeah.
from UAGC.
UAGC. Swimming pools, UAGC.
Tuapeka Aquatic Centre.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Tuapeka Aquatic Centre team, Lily? Nothing? Questions for Lily? No questions for Lily, discussion? Councillor Finch?
so this is a really hard one, and I do have an issue that they're receiving significantly more than other community pools, and yeah, have we had a discussion that it may go to the community board rate? How would that go with their budget? Is my question.
It would have to be for them to determine, you know. We can't tell them to spend their money, but who knows how it will go. They're not as wealthy, they're not with
Through you, your worship, if council wanted it to just be funded from the Lawrence Tuapeka ward, then funding it through the community board rate would be a way to do it, but it would be in addition to what they currently have. Sharon, is that something that is an option for council?
Through you, your worship, it would simply be an increase in the community board's project funds. If you to do that, they would just increase their project funds, or they would put a direct grant to the pool through their community board.
I know.
Just because, like, it was discussion about Owaka, they have, you know, all people that volunteer, and this just came up last year, the employee wages and for a cleaner and a caretaker. And so then are we going to have it all round the other community pools to pay their wages of their staff and a cleaner? And that's just my issue.
Councillor Martin?
Through you, your worship, in response to Councillor Finch's questions, who was not present this morning when we had the debate about the pool review, and the whole purpose, Councillor Finch, is you're not actually comparing apples with apples. And well, what a ludicrous question then to say that the pool doesn't need that, because if you've been in the facility and used the facility, you realise the extent of the facility and the upkeep that's required. So hence why they're asking, like they asked last year.
I didn't say it didn't need it.
So please keep it tidy, team. I'll say, once again, I'll just hit the record button. We've said that we're going to go through a review of the swimming pools. This is predetermining or going away from where we've always been. It's certainly not in this environment high enough on my priority, and it doesn't align with where the report may well come back through. So I can't support it at this moment, and yet that doesn't change the fact that I still want to support consistency and a better way of managing it. We're going about it the wrong way. Councillor Lehman.
I don't actually support this either, as I didn't support the Awaka swimming baths motion. But as it went through, and if you look at what the Awaka swimming baths grant is of 12,500, and you agreed to another 9,783 for Awaka, Tuapeka gets a grant of 10.5. Perhaps we should be looking at giving them, say, 8.3 for wages. I mean, it's all about fairness here. And as I say, I did not I did not support the Wacker Swimming Baths motion at all, but it went through, it was passed. So if you want to look at it like that, I'll go to the Tuapeka Aquatic Centre and my feeling around it. While I don't support the idea, is I think it should be waiting till the swimming pool review. We've actually sat around this table and agreed for one, so I would like to support it to about the 9,000 mark.
Councillor Kennedy.
West Otago hasn't come into this argument yet.
They come in.
But we do clean our pool too. Sadly, everyone has to clean their pool and run through the system. Ours is done by volunteers, or we pay them out of the annual grant that we get. So money comes out of that. So I am a bit like Councillor Ludeman. I really want this pool review to come through, and not to come through. I want to see that review come through before this council winds itself up. It would be nice to get that over the board and dealt with. We have, as we said, we have given one off to Owaka for their thing, so I'm quite happy to give some money for the next up and coming season that this pool needs to get across the line. But we certainly need to hurry up and bring these this review through this board.
Anything further? Looking for a recommendation? Councillor Martin.
I'd like to recommend to council that the $10,468.85 be increased to $18,850.85 for the 25-26.
Funded from? Funded from?
Will we leave the UAGC alone today?
I don't know. You're making the recommendation, but it's got to have somewhere where it's funded from.
Well, I think the WACA come from the surplus fund, didn't it? Investment surplus.
I'm going to move it. Second it. Councillor McClusty, matters open for discussion.
Just clarification, so there's already an operational grant there of 10,000. So is Councillor Martin moving the whole amount comes from the investment surplus now?
Actually,
No,
only the extra.
only the extra 8,300.
But you did, so you moved the extra, not the total amount.
Amended. Yeah, extra.
Hold on.
Well, the original 10,000 is an allocated grant already. So Councillor Martin's talking about topping it up, but then he said coming from investment surplus. So is the whole amount coming from investment?
No. So it'll
That
be
changes everything.
So the resolution.
Two different amounts.
Yeah, but the resolution, Your Worship, would be approves the top up of funding to 18,350.
Or approves.
Just
approves.
The operational grant is not for wages, so it's two different things. So it's 10,000 operational grant and 18 for wages.
10,468.
Leave that.
Extra, that's out. The extra over and above that.
Of 18,000.
Make it up to 18,000.
I'll make it up to 18. So that's going to be because we've got to be quite clear, there's an operating grant of 10,468 plus the balance, which is wages. So there's going to be
8,000.
8,000 for wages. Is that what we're doing? No, that's what we're doing.
Funding of 8,000.
No, well, it's John wanted
8,382.
8,382. Councillor Grant.
Mr. Mayor, I'm getting confused and getting a sore head over this whole thing, so I'd be more pushing to let's get this, wait till this review's through and then look at it then.
You could have said that before the WACA decision.
Yeah. And that is the problem with being inconsistent. We're now being consistently inconsistent and getting ourselves into a bind. And it'll be absolutely pointless to do the review because we've already predetermined about 10 different directions.
We're in discussion.
And we're in discussion, and that's what I'm saying. We are being consistently inconsistent. I can't support it. Councillor Cathwood.
Through your worship. So yes, here we are, 1 year later, I'm saying a year ago how important it was that it need to be reviewed, museums and pools, and here we are deliberating all day and having inconsistencies and all the rest of it. I'm going to fully support the motion of the extra $8,000 in funding. That will come from, to be funded out of the investment fund, because it just brings to a head inequality that's going on across the district with regards to the topic called pools. So fair's fair, these pools, these two particular pools have turned up, they've submitted, it's all been there. They've got the other ones with the problems that they're facing right in front of them now. Just remember, you know, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but you know, our pool, we charge our school to swim in our pools. We have to try and make, you know, budgets. You know, our kids don't swim for free at our pool. Our kids get charged in our school. These other parts of the district are free, so it'll all come out in the wash. I look forward to the review in full support.
We've got a mover and a seconder.
So we're heading to the vote. You know the rules. Everyone in favour, please raise your hands and say aye. Those against, please raise, oh, you got it?
Yeah.
You yell out when you're right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and those against, please raise your hands and say no. Motion's passed. West Otago Community Centre. Lily? No? Questions for Lily, please? Questions, team? Councillor Fouts.
This might be a dumb question, but the other project that was going on for that community centre, like the roof, is that a different project?
Yeah, this is an operational.
Further questions, Councillor Lehman?
I've got a question, I was just going to make a past questions.
Sorry?
Mine wasn't a question, mine was a discussion.
We're almost going to be past the questions and into discussion. There's no more questions.
Right.
Matters open for discussion. What are you doing, Ellen?
Let's get on with it. We approved today funding for diploma for operational costs. This had been done previously and they hadn't got their funding. So I would be keen to approve funding of the 15,443 through the community facility rate. Just like we did this morning.
Happy to support that, Your Worship, because it actually goes back to what we decided on the original long-term plan, but just we didn't get the dates quite right. It's not through the system, so it's just actually catching up to what we've already decided.
Moved Ludeman, seconded Herbert. Question from Councillor McDermott.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, the only problem I've got with this perhaps is the wording of 25, 26. Because does that mean that this pops up again next year?
You're going to have to look at that long-term plan. They're going to have to until it gets to the next LTP, from my understanding.
Or, okay. So all those other community centres that get grants?
This one was missed off the long-term, sorry, this one,
yeah.
For whatever reason, they didn't realise it, didn't get notified and didn't submit themselves to the next annual plan. The original annual plan, 21-22, they put in for 3 years, and when it rolled around again, they missed it.
Yeah. So it needs noted that it needs to be in 26.
As a council, next time we're making these decisions, it needs to be for.
Through you, Your Worship, what we can note in this, for this reason, in this side of things, is that we can bring this into your annual plan workshop discussions, so that you might make a decision to include it in the baseline for the next annual plan, rather than require this group to have to submit, for example, right?
Yeah.
So it still allows you to decide, oh, you don't agree with that, but it means you don't have to put through the submission process, right? So we will just need to make a note, assuming you're saying yes to this in whatever form, to just bring it into the workshop space for the next budget building.
So, further questions, discussion?
Happy to move, Your Worship. We approve.
We did that.
Oh, yeah.
We've done that.
You seconded it, I think.
Community facilities.
I'm looking
rate.
at
Enthusiasm,
Community facilities rate.
enthusiasm.
Now, Margaret, they can have it.
Right, from community facilities, right?
Yeah, 50 UAGC.
All those in favour, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Councillor Graham, were you for it? You abstained.
I was asleep.
You wake up?
Can I just, Sharon, I'm going to push on for a wee bit more. I know that we had that bit of a break, but it is everyone's starting to get sluggy. Can you please at some point give us how much we used out the investment surplus, how much we used out of the this, that, and everything, so we get an update picture? I'll try and probably push on to about 10 to 14, just so you know what I'm thinking. So next one's here at the main board, and Sharon, just when you get that figure, oh, you got it now, okay, could you please give us an update?
On the investment surplus, you have used just under 120,000, so it's 879 that left. And with the rates, they're currently sitting at about 15.87.
Excuse me.
Who said excuse me?
What was that again?
15.87.
You got out of the investment service.
No, because there was 75,000 out of that for the Lawrence Chinese share.
And 25,
25 for Waipori,
9783 for swimming bars,
correct?
and 8382.
Correct.
That's it.
Yes, just under 120,000. 118.
Oh,
Yeah.
but we had about 300 and something at the start.
No.
Sharon's just told you from the whole
Report.
time.
Not the true figure.
Yeah.
Right,
So
so,
how much is
Not
left
the
for it?
slim.
so,
Of the 994,000.
Thank you.
so more importantly, we've used 120,000 of investment and we're at 15.87. We'll move to here at the main board. Lily, any questions for Lily, please? Questions for Lily? If not, Lily, you get enough light. Moving to discussion. Councillor Herbert.
I'll let it go, see how we get on. Seems to be in a reasonably good mood. I suppose this really does highlight the changing of a lot of small communities. Once upon a time, farms were smaller and all employed someone, and we had netball clubs and we had tennis clubs and bowling clubs and cricket clubs. And now we've got one club left, the remaining rugby club that's 140 years old this year, and it's the sole club left to try and fund this domain. And as I say, it's a changing of people haven't got as much time as they used to have. And if you remember the set of accounts, which you probably don't, one particular family had been grazing a number of animals to prop this up, and they're no longer willing to do that. And you can't blame them. But a lot of farming people have, they can have upwards of a dozen or 20 odd cattle grazing for two or three different things. So people are actually getting a wee bit weary of it. So it's a community facility that's used by the rugby club, and we've just done up the tennis courts that are used by a lot of kids. And we're going to the paper the next day or two. There's a picture of some kids tomorrow, and we're going to do that. So it's a very, very well used facility, but the times have changed. And I know it's going outside of what we've normally funded, but we do fund. We got an email from Trader today, which I much appreciated. Was some other domains around Kaitangata, Milton, Clinton, and Waka get funding. So we're not actually setting a precedent here. This already happens today at the moment. So I'm 100% supporting it, Your Worship.
Who's next? Councillor Lederman.
So if we fund this, could we fund it through the rural community services rate?
Local community, so it's 50-50.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy with that.
Councillor Catterwood, followed by Martin.
Oh, that was my question is that the funding mechanism? Community services rate, 50-50, UAGC.
So how the
Community of
others
interest. So it would fall under Western Otago?
No, the rural community services rate is split amongst all of the other communities of interest. Isn't it, Sharon?
Only if you can't identify it very well where it fits.
Yep, so this
one would go to West Otago.
Okay. So it's not.
So this would be West Otago community facility rate and 50% across the district.
Councillor Martin, followed by.
Just a couple of things, Chair. Is this a one-off or is this going to be ongoing?
Only got 25, 26. Yeah, at the moment, it's only one off.
Because here's another example of actually workshopping around our community funding policy that, you know, like these people here, that could be ongoing. So maybe it's included in the workshopping for the annual plan moving forward. How does this look? This model sitting inside that. And another thing I'd like to point out is that, as Councillor Herbert said, we're down to one club here maintaining the facility, but every other community of interest in our district visits that club once a year, if not twice, during the rugby season.
Not always successful.
So, yes, which alludes to the other question of, you've got my vote if you default this weekend.
Who's next? Councillor.
Oh,
That's better. Thank you, Simon.
You've been so good today.
I have. I've been.
I'm just wondering whether we go all that way with funding, because before we've had this discussion around these other grounds, because as John alluded to, there's 3 other council-owned grounds for High Tankard or Crescent, Clinton, and a Wacker. They get some funding, but not to that level. And there's also one other ground and rugby club that receives nothing from the council. So I said to John, well, potentially those guys are in.
Yeah.
And I know them well. But so I'm just wondering again whether we go all the way out there and not leave it too far, because I think Harriet are going to, this weekend will be Harriet Rugby Club, this will be very good financially for them this weekend. Pretty sure of that.
Can I ask what the other grounds get? To be consistent, what do they get? 4. 4.
Yeah, you were, so if it's around 4,000, you're not exactly the same. One's 4,600 in each round, one's just under 4,000.
Through your worship, if I could comment, that's an annual amount, and this has actually got a bit of a deficit to cover as well. So in the report, there's actually 10 grand outstanding.
I could, pick up a bit of deficit and go 7 or something, but it's a long jump from we give our clubs 4. Accept this inconsistency for 15. Once again.
So then what that's telling us is that they've got themselves into a deficit of 10 because they weren't giving the 4.
Is it?
That's what it's telling us.
They are in certain,
it's the way that it's what's happening out there. So,
though I noted, I went and looked up information, looked up the Incorporated Society's website just to see what Harriet Rugby Club owned and then last year. And they were looking okay, and they only charged the ground only charged the rugby club about $1,500 for rental last year. So yes, there's a deficit there, but it's just.
Could you quantify what okay looks like?
Actually, point of order, we're not discussing here.
No,
we're discussing here at Maine.
Yeah, I know, but it's all the money that's in it.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about their revenue and what's a fair revenue. I've got an operating expenditure of 15,000, but what's a fair? Are they extracting as much income as they potentially got?
And consequently, that's why I say it's fair, John. I want to support them, but I've seen that I support 3 grounds by $4,000. If there's a need for 15, then tell me the need. But if there isn't a need, then tell me that as well. So what is the finance?
There's actually a deficit already. They've got themselves into a hole. They should have probably come a couple of years ago, to be fair. If you want to talk about the Harriet Rugby Club, the man Richard, when he stood up here and presented very well, he did actually run through it, and it was about $100,000 that the rugby club has done to the building in the past. It's been a gentleman's agreement. They haven't been charging a whole lot of rent because the rugby guys have been fixing up the building. So look, it works for them. And I think the long term, and I did ask that day, I think they should probably merge. But that's not the question here today. The question is, this club and this organisation, this domain board, have got a deficit. They want to keep operating. The dynamics around our community have changed. How do we help them keep operating? That's the question for today. And as far as setting precedents go and all those things, I mean, we don't generally fund wages for aquatic centres, but we do. We've just done that too. We don't have to stick to £4,000. We've broken the rules every motion today.
We certainly have.
So let's help this little town out. Struggles Gully.
Councillor Grant.
Through you, yeah, it's not just rugby club, there's other people use the domain.
Oh, there's, yeah.
Maybe not other clubs.
Yeah, we hub really.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's Highland dancing and different things. And that tennis court that's on the ground. Oh, the work kids you're talking about. What used to be the Cubs, but now it's called work, which is West Tago Rural Kids. They use old bowling stuff.
I think we get too wound up with the rugby club. And like it says something about some kids group or something.
West Tago Rural Kids.
Yeah. So, and people be able to take the dogs for a walk.
Absolutely. Whoever.
Councillor McCroskey.
Just put it out there, if we're going down that line, everybody else is getting £4,000, why isn't 10 grand for the, in the arrears, £4,000 going?
Some logic to that. Yeah, at least there's a figure to go back on.
Can I just get a clarification? How do we word that in such a way that it pops up automatically through the next LTP? If it's going to be an operational thing going forward, because we don't. Otherwise, we keep repeating with these things that keep popping up.
So I go back to the point, through your worship, is that if you are considering positively that this group, that there should at least be the effort on our part as staff to bring this into the pre-budget side of things, right, as opposed to a submission, then you just tell us, which is what we did with the last item, and we will ensure that we bring it and highlight it, so it's not hidden in anything, it's highlighted as a decision that you need to make as to putting it in or not in the baseline of the budget times. So what we don't want to do as staff is bring into pre-budget stuff these debates where we've got 50 community groups and we're all debating those before we even go out for consultation, right? So what we are wanting to make sure is that where there's a solid view that this is something that should perhaps proceed in a multiple year basis, then that's what we'll bring to you in when we're doing the baseline work for budgets. That's all. So again, you can do that. You can approve because you're approving for 1 year. That's fine. And then if you want to think that it should be brought to our attention for you to put into baseline potentially, then you just tell us this time around, and we get a reasonable consensus. Like if you half and half or something in terms of the approval, may not be. You may need to go through submission. But if it's general agreement, then we can bring it to you in the pre-budget.
Are we done, Tim?
Looking for a recommendation, Your Worship?
Yeah, long past.
I'm going to go to council approves funding of $15,000 to Herrick Domain Board, as it's worded there, and funded from community funding, local community funding, 50/50.
Julie's wanting that word right. What was it?
It's whatever that was. Community facilities. Well, we got a bit of paper and said it all.
So it's not rural communities, it's
Local community
facility,
funding.
right. Okay, matters open. Hold on, we're going to move it. There's seconder. Seconder, Councillor Graham. Matters open for discussion. No discussion. Put to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Everybody except council.
No.
We'll
We'll do this. Everyone's names are done.
That's why I said it.
Yeah.
Those against? That's yes, I know.
Only 1 year.
47. Now we're going to do this one. Yeah, right. We'll give it a go. Fieldland Endurance. Any questions for Lily? Discussion. Oh, sorry.
From memory, this will start in Gore and end in Gore, and people will be accommodated in Gore. So they just, yeah, right. Thank you.
Councillor Finch.
And this is going, the grant that they want is going towards marketing. And I did ask the question what would happen if they didn't get the money, and they said it would still go ahead. And it will bring people in, but host venues is definitely poor because there wasn't enough accommodation here, but they never even looked at having accommodation around here. And I think it was only just going through the Catlins and West Otago on one day. Is that correct, Lily?
Through you, your worship, yes, from memory, it's just one day going, around Catlins and then up West Otago to about Beaumont.
Thank you.
Further councillor Lindner.
Not a question. I don't actually think in this economic environment that I'm prepared to support this. Because it's not starting or finishing in the Clutha district. It may be coming through the Clutha district, but it's not actually being placed.
Are you ready for a recommendation?
I'll go to councillor Herbert and then we'll.
We've actually decided this morning, well, we could split the development to our emotional side of things, so we've actually got that sorted, I would have thought. So I'm happy to move that we do not approve this funding to fuel and endurance for this year, Your Worship.
Seconded, councillor Finch. Any further discussion? Put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Anonymous. And on that, unanimous. Come back at 4:10. come back together again, and guess what? We've only scooted the runway from a legal perspective. We're only allowed to deliberate for 6 hours a day, well, excluding the council bit. We're at 5.5 hours now, but we can pass a resolution that we're tougher than that. We can keep going. So read out the resolution, Julie.
That council agrees to extend the meeting to enable all annual plan decisions to be made.
I'll move that. Phelps is not too keen. Anyone else not keen? Yeah, Ken seconder. All those in favour? Those against? Beauty. Let's go for it. So we are on something. 55.
Here in District Community Centre.
Page 55, top of. Lily, any questions for Lily, please? If not, matters open for discussion.
Look, I suppose they haven't actually, there's a lot of community centres and halls have been here in the past to increase their operating grants, and these guys haven't been, but they are now. My understanding, and actually it was interesting when we did the seismic assessments of these halls, their insurance rate didn't go up, but it is now. They passed with flying colours that seismic assessment, so their insurance rate didn't alter, but it is altering now, and as we know firsthand the effect that has. It's a great facility, it's a big facility. They've probably got a few dollars tucked away, but you only need a heating system failure or a paint job on the roof or the outside of it, and you'll soon burn through a few dollars. Bearing in mind, it's probably the most important facility in the north end of West Otago, as it is part of our civil defence. We do have the generator that runs it, we do have the cable, so we can fire it up reasonably short notice with a tractor and feed and house and shower people. Of course, we've got the squash courts and everything in there, so it's a great facility. It just needs to be kept up with the times, and it needs a little bit of a help out with their operational grant.
Anyone else? Councillor McTamaney.
Contrary to the last one, I will support this or request from this other area group. And I think if we do, we are being consistent today. One thing we have been consistent on, if we do it, is here is supporting the other community centres. Help the other West Otago one out. So.
Yep, happy. Someone do something. Or move it. Brent's moving it. As in you're approving it, and where does it come from?
But hang on a wee minute.
5,000
funded from community facility, right?
Is that what you're saying, Brent? Yep. Seconded by?
But once again,
Councillor, hold on, I'll go seconded, Councillor McCroskey, matters now open.
So once again, can this be highlighted like the last 2 or 3 have been, that the team don't have to keep coming back and resubmitting each year that goes into the baseline for going forward?
I don't see how we can do that, John, because they haven't asked for it for anything more than 1 year. We're presuming that they would, but let them come along and ask for it on a forever basis, and we consider it. But at the moment, they ask for 1 year. They might want to go into recess now. I don't know.
I can come.
Of course. Councillor Catherine.
Through your worship. Yeah, well, actually, I agree with Brian on that one, because the previous one is in their arrears, so it is 1 year, 15. This one will be ongoing, so yeah, it's for 1 year. Happy to
We'll just tell the submitters next year that.
Happy to
support. So we have got a second. We've done all that.
Mackie and Crosty.
Yep. So any further discussion before we put to the vote? Put the vote, all those in favour, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Anonymous. South Otago Mountain Bike Incorporated. Remember this one? Young fellas came and did it. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, hey, these guys done a lot of work. They're pretty positive, and I'm pretty sure they don't waste too much money. They've never had much to work with. Hey, look, they're young, and it keeps them off the iPads. So I'm going, and it keeps that bit of land next to the Kui tidy.
Just your worship, we just made the note that in this case, the depreciation reserve is a valid.
Yeah. Something to consider. Someone wanted to hit me with a recommendation. Councillor Lerman.
I support this obviously. So I would approve funding of $4,000 and it comes out of depreciation reserves.
Got a seconder for that, Councillor Graham. Discussion. Vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Those against? Not even got Bull Creek Crib Owners Association. Could someone please pronounce that for me? Moana Riri. Really, Moana Riri Crib Owners Association. Coming to us for first time in living memory. Can any?
I mean, through you, your worship, this is another area that is relatively inconsistent. There's probably 3 areas like this that get grants like this or services that council pays for, and we don't provide it in other areas. So, yeah, it's something that probably needs to be looked at, and we were doing our transfer station review moving forward.
Councillor Wheeler.
Just make the point, when you see what they're doing there, and I'll have to go back and find it in their submission again, but when you see what they're doing there, they're providing quite a bit of voluntary work in that area. They're providing a toilet, which is available for the public there, and we provide toilets, the council provides toilets in other reserve areas around the coast. These people provided their own, looking it up themselves, basically, assistance funding from council and emptying it's a tank system. They're having that emptied as well. So I don't think there's a lot of inconsistency if we fund this and if we gain additional funding that came from the.
For anyone that's not been there, there's probably 2 acres there, is the Bruce. Pretty well manicured lawns and it's looking pretty sharp.
It's a popular place for day trippers to go to and use the beach and facilities there.
Councillor Finch.
And they also have a walking track that they upkeep of their own back as well. And they do a lot around that area and they have picnics and everything like that. So they do definitely do a lot there.
Looking for a recommendation. Councillor Herbert.
Right, just to make, look, I support it personally. The only thing I do have a bit of an issue with is the rubbish being taken away, because they do state in there that we do state in there removal from the cribs during peak holiday times. If these people are at home, they're paying to have their own rubbish removed. Why is the rest of the council paying to remove their rubbish when they're on holiday?
No, I think what they meant, John, is they've got 2 buckets up in the main area.
Is it
you go there?
It says in there from the cribs.
No, it's not.
It says removal from cribs during peak holiday times.
I took it that it was they've got 2 oil drums there.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, well, if you're at home, you're responsible for removing your own rubbish, so you should be the same when you're on holiday.
I'm picking it visitors, people that go there, rubbish, not the locals. Where are we? Councillor McCroskey, well, I'm thinking where we are.
I'd just like to move that this gets approved. Very good question. I'm open to options on that, but on the funding.
It is tourists that use the rubbish.
Community services.
Community services then? Yep.
So we're going to move it with community services. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Finn. Discussion. Vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Lucky last, but please the community garden. Questions for Lily? No questions? Let's head into it then. It's a real tricky one, Tim, because, like, I support the community garden, they do a great job, but this is a precedent that we've never crossed. We always charge for the services. We're giving them the discount on the other bit, but we do charge for services. There was the concern that if they didn't get this, it would be the end of it, and then you start thinking, is that the case? Not an easy one. Councillor Finch.
So there's a community garden in the showgrounds at Toko, and I don't think they get any funding for anything for that, do they, Sharon?
Through you, worship, not that I'm aware of, not directly.
Yeah. So they plant a whole lot of potatoes and give them to the community. It was started off quite a few years ago, and there's quite a few people go up there and do a lot of work, and yes, they give away all the stuff that they grow, and they don't receive anything for it at all, and it's all volunteers that do it.
Must be getting water from somewhere.
Councillor Volwiller, followed by Ludeman. I'll have a think on that last statement.
There is quite a difference though to the community garden in Milton, because the community garden in Milton is on council reserve land. It's not charged rates. The land is rented by the South Otago Heritage Group. So there's no charge to the Milton Community Garden with Project Bush.
And the volunteer, because I know Catherine Paul's in on that, so to say it's volunteer might.
All the rest is definitely voluntary.
Yeah, it's one of Catherine's projects. Councillor Ludeman.
This is kind of a project, and it's been generously helped by the owner of that property, who has many years paid the rates, and we need to consider that. And I know for a fact, if you look in there, it's just full of raised gardens and glass houses. It's chocker now. So if they had to shift, it would be, well, it would be catastrophic. I don't know how they would ever do it. Danone, I know for one, and I'm sure there were others, but they helped substantially get that established. I don't see how we can see it go. We need it. It's helping all sorts. Very much so the elderly. It's helping some of the rest homes with veggies and stuff. It's actually helping a lot across the district. Yeah. I would like to support this.
Can I ask a question? Do we know, is there a lot of young people going there being trained in how to do the gardens?
And I've only been spasmodically, and the majority will be sort of pensioner age. Well, maybe I'm being brutal on them. I'll go my age and then you work out how old they are.
But they also support the food hub, obviously, with veggies. Yeah. I mean, they're hugely supportive to the community, and it's a real need.
Councillor Graham, I think, followed by.
Through you, I'm not sure. I've never seen Brodie Dodds some advertising about young people that want to learn how to garden. Has she got any connection with that, or?
She's got her own.
There was a Milton, wasn't it?
She did one in Milton, but she has her own big garden at home that she.
Can they make that application through the reimbursement of fees and charge scheme? Can that actually be done?
Sorry, through you, Your Worship. The suggestion of that was only for the water charges, not for the rates. Because in addition to their service charges, they should have been charged between $500 and $800 a year of usage charges for water usage as well.
Councillor Mackie, followed by, was it Kennedy?
We come back and, we the money we gave to the other one, the food bank and what have you, and here you've got a group of people and they're growing food and they're feeding up to 20 families or something and getting food from there. and they're just wanting, was it $1,400 and something back on their rates, you know, it would take a burden off their shoulder if they weren't having to try and make a bit of money here to pay for that rate, so they could just go and do what they do. And I think if they're teaching people to garden, that's positive.
Councillor Levin.
Can I make a recommendation that we approve the grant, but I'm not sure of the dollar amount. So are they, what is it, 1,405 plus whatever? Tell me what's the.
Through you, your worship, the 1,405 was the service charges from 24-25 year, which you've already agreed to waive through a different decision. So until we set the rates for this year, we won't know what that charge will be, but it will simply be that we rate them for it and then remit it. The 500 to 800 were actual water meter for additional water usage, on top of the rates, and I don't know that amount yet.
So what's the amount we should be
That
putting
can be
in
done through
here?
fees,
But-
reimbursement of fees and charges.
It just wouldn't be charged or paid, we do it.
Okay,
No,
but still we need to know an amount
Yeah.
that we need to approve, don't we? Up to, I guess.
Or can your resolution say that
Once the rates are set.
that you will grant or approve a grant up to the value of
Yep.
the service charges on real property? I don't know, can you say that?
Yeah, yeah,
28
28 James Street, yeah. And is it funded through the reimbursement of fees and charges scheme? No?
Sorry, through you, your worship, the proposal was to have it not just offset it, to actually reflect the value, is that we actually approve a grant for them that would then be used to pay those charges. So it would add to the rates, if you're gonna do that. And we probably,
If it's funded by.
if it's funded by rates.
But
Or
you
you
could
can
fund
fund it
it,
from
you could
something
fund it
else.
from investment services.
Yep.
Investment Surplus.
So were you making a
I
recommendation?
am trying, it's a bit long-winded.
So just to help councillor, if it was through rates, it would be a little bit problematic because we don't know what what is to be specified. If it was investment surplus, then you can specify an amount and it's going to be around that. And it doesn't make any difference because it's investment surplus.
So I'll do for a grant of up to, I suppose, 2,500 from investment surplus.
No, I don't think Sharon was suggesting an amount. She was just saying we
Up
would.
to. If it comes from investment surplus, then because they don't know an exact amount.
Just to cover the costs.
So if we don't have to specify it, if we just say without the dollar amount to cover the costs of the services, water services and waste,
That's fine.
funded from the investment surplus, it's such a small amount, it's not going to be an issue in terms of the total that we're talking about.
So I'm going to move it there, and Wayne, you seconded. Wayne second, Councillor Phelps seconded. Matters open for discussion. Councillor McTaman.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit of a technical question, but why can't, such circumstances, that a certain property can be exempted from any rates? Is that not possible?
Through you, your worship, is, you can get certain remissions on your rates that are set in law, but you can't remit service charges, which is water, wastewater and sewage. You're not allowed to do that, so you have to find a different rate.
It's a national law, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Martin.
Through the your worship, wouldn't it come out of the community services rate, 50/50? Because it's they'll include the community that's the main beneficiary.
But then, because we haven't got an amount, it's not as easy. Because we haven't got a set amount to bring it out of the community services rate, it's not as easy for them as the setting the rates.
Now, I appreciate that, but I'm just adding to today's debates that we've been having, keep it all in proportion. Fairness.
Yeah. So I suppose that gets tested in the vote, Councillor Martin. Councillor Volwell.
I think the investment surplus is place to take it from. It's a one-off this year. They're not guaranteed this property forever and a day. For whatever reason, the owner might wish to sell in the future. So investment surplus, 1 year.
Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, Councillor Von Wheeler just, I'm pretty sure the ladies that day said that this wasn't going to be forever, because I think this person that actually owns it was sort of wanting to move on, but yeah, I'm not happy to.
So we're ready for a vote?
Yeah.
Put to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Those against?
Bruce.
Thank you. Unanimous vote. So are we going straight over to page 64? I read that right. Thank you, Lil. That's the best question and answer, sir, you've ever done. Community projects update. I saw Mike. G'day, Mike. Welcome.
Just as Mike comes up, Your Worship, some of the councillors that might have been on to their emails might have seen an announcement we've made today. Congratulations, Mike. We've picked up an acting role in replacing Kelly for Kelly's leaving, which we announced also today. And in doing so, he also picks up the supporting leadership role for the vacant infrastructure operations team, the transportation team at the moment as well. So he's got a big job, but he's moving from consulting to fixed term employment. So and 5 days a week, isn't it, Mike? So it's
we're winding you in, Mike. We knew you couldn't leave us. Congratulations. So, do you have anything you wish to add to this report?
I have a couple of notes for each item as we go through.
So we'll just do them when we hit them.
But I had a general comment as well.
Right,
Just, so as Lily stated, trade was, I assume he's coming back, available to Greg maybe available to work out the rating impact on any individual ratepayer, for any of the funding options that are in this report. So it's available if you want it. Secondly, just note that all of the new funding that is requested through this report is the recommendations are generally for that to be rates funded, but I guess it's at your discretion if you do want to consider a different option. But, it's always there.
Thank you for that. Do we do generic questions to Michael? No, let's just get into it and you can put the questions as we go. Yeah, I've got one to go with. So I've got a recommendation back on page 65 that we have to, something about in the body of the report. You said halfway down the page, that recommendation?
It's just a note.
That's not there. So, right, we received the report. Thank you, Councillor Ludeman. Second, Councillor Finch. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Community plan projects, our place Clutha. Mike, do you have anything you wish to?
Just a quick note on that 3.1 regarding the toilet. So as stated, we haven't got a fully quoted or costed for that, but it's just an estimate from staff. The advice I've had is that if it can be done for less than that amount, that 120k, obviously that the ratepayers would only cover the actual cost of that work. I guess what's being proposed is up to 120k. We'll obviously try and do it for less than that, and the cost to ratepayers would be what it actually costs.
Questions, team? Councillor Ludeman.
Just for the relocation side of it, how can it be relocated near the swimming pool using the existing kind of services there hooked into them?
It would be tricky. You've got the map there on over the page.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as some of those other relocations that we've done, so that's why there's a contingency there. I mean, the exact location hasn't really been confirmed, and probably require a bit more thinking. And again, if you can make it closer to or use those existing services, great, but may not be possible.
Just a funding assistance, Your Worship.
Sorry, just the current public conveniences depreciation reserve is $119,000 at the start of the year, so that just may partially fund some of that rather than loan funding it. So I thought it just might influence your decision if you would like to use those reserves.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the map where the new toilet location is, and I've been to the dog park and all around Centennial Park. So that's really close to the swimming pool. Can they actually go into the pool and use the toilets?
Open. Yes, when it's open.
Right, so there's lights there so that that dog park can be used at night when the pool's shut.
Yep.
Yes.
Councillor Ludeman.
It's probably not a question, but yes, they could go into the pool. I think it's far from ideal, and from my understanding, the neighbours are putting up with a bit of what they need. We don't want them to be putting up with, and there's actually, that's quite a facility down there now, and Joe Bloggs mightn't actually realise there is a toilet through a niche park, which, yeah, we do. I was there a few weeks ago, and there was sort of farms were having all their staff do and everything. It was just a buzz down there, but actually in the comments we were no toilets. There is.
Councillor Catherwood.
Yeah, so the same question along as Councillor Finch. I mean, there is a toilet facility at the pool right there. There is the toilet facility, the existing toilet facility. I know it's a wee way away from the park, the wee ones and that. So for myself, toilets are a bit of a bugbear when it comes to the true costs around this table for me. So I'd actually like to leave the decision on this and get this actually costed. Bring it to council to actually tell us what it is going to cost to relocate some toilets. Because to relocate an existing equally product for 120 grand just down the road, I find it quite excessive actually. So it'd be nice to see it costed. I know that I know the staff will only spend what it costs, but what is the true cost?
Just to, Your Worship, just to assist with that, not necessarily saying it's a good idea or not, but if you were to look at funding this from depreciation reserves as an available funding source, you wouldn't need to wait for another annual plan for that. You could make council decisions to spend that through a year if you were going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just through looking at that map, I'd like to cost out a couple of signs saying toilets 200 metres away, Nash Park. It really is not a big distance.
Councillor Volwella.
Yeah, I must admit, I looked at that and thought it's exactly the same thing. Signage there to point where the toilets are at Nash Park. Okay, perhaps we need to spend a bit of money to do them up. I don't know what the condition is. But when you look at the distance, well, for a start, it's probably 350 metres from the dog park. Okay, I'm presuming the dog park people who exercise dogs, they're be able to walk that distance. They're heading back to their vehicles wherever they park. And the distance from the play area, from the cycle track and everything, well, there's really very little. Well, the Nash Park toilets are probably closer than the proposed site to next to the swimming pool anyway, for the users of the cycle track and playground. So to be honest, at the moment, I'm not in favour of putting new toilets or relocated toilets in that proposed location.
Councillor Phelps, followed by Self.
Just in response to that, Councillor Volwella, you've got to appreciate that the area is actually increasing the number of people visiting there. The dog park itself can be quite full, but now we've got the pub track, we've got the other things there. There is a lot of people down there at times, and you can say it's not a far distance, but I think it's more the number of people, like Councillor Ludeman was saying, when you have a function there, is it, what am I trying to say? That toilet, yes, while it is reasonably close, if you have 50 people there, all run over to the Nash Park, it's, that area is only going to increase with people. You go down there in the weekends, it's absolutely busy. Like I say, the dog park itself could be 10 or 20 people in there, let alone the pump track and the hangers on, the family, which is great to see. That's what it's there for. But I think we need to provide the facilities for the, not only the young, but the elderly that go along to watch the grandchildren.
From my perspective, I think some of you may not have realised the transformation that's taken at both Nash Park and the Old Boys Ground. The existing toilets pretty much are for the, boy, there's some public in that Nash Park, and the new grounds, the new barbecue, the new everything. That takes up the toilet, guys, can we hold in a bit? And over by the dog park and where the stage 2 of the playground is, I never actually thought of it when I'm there. It's the toilet over there, and I've lived all my life. It's a long way from it. I think it was called the paint run or something. I went down there to open, and there was a whole lot of mothers with their daughters, and like, there would have been hundreds. This is a facility that's not just getting one or two drifting through. It's a major event place, and while it sort of worries me that we're putting those toilets in from the warehouse, because around there at 10 o'clock at night, there might be a security lock that we're going to have to. They're pretty delicate toilets to go around there. I have the hesitation on that. The need for them standalone in that park, definitely now moving forward, we need toilets. And there's money in the Balclutha. What was it, Jules? 119 of the 120,000 is in the Balclutha toilet.
That's in our district-wide public conveniences depreciation reserve.
Not quite there. Close. Councillor Ludeman.
Here we go.
Well, this is one of the Air Place projects, basically. Clutha Parks Trust have done the work. They've come to you with this. They're still ready to do their second stage of the playground. It's just part of their whole overall project, which is worth hundreds of thousands.
Millions.
And I think they've done a great job. They're a very passionate group. And so I'm supporting it, as we have supported all other community projects across the district, really. So I would support it.
Councillor Herbert.
Yeah, look, I don't profess to know a whole lot about that area, but you're going to have a lot of toilets in a small area, but I'm happy to support it. But I would be leaning towards the second recommendation, where it's 50% covered by the lower Clutha facilities rate. Because the top one is actually, it's completely district-wide. One's UAGC, one's district-wide, so everyone's paying for it. The second recommendation, the way I understand that, is that 50% UAGC and 50% lower community.
You're moving that way.
No, I'm just saying that would be my preference. When someone, if someone wants my vote and they go that way, then I'll get it. That's what I'm saying.
Through you, Your Worship, this is an interesting point. We have always funded public toilets from the public conveniences district-wide. In the past, that's no reason why you can't do that going forward. We've clearly got toilets that are for parks and for travelling public, but we haven't made a distinction in the past.
I suppose a bit of my motivation, you've already got toilets not too far away. You've got to have two lots of toilets within, I don't know, is it 300 metres apart?
To move things along, and from a pragmatic perspective, I'd have to admit that Clutha gets an advantage out of this. So I'm happy to move the second one. Otherwise, we're going to be here till midnight.
I'll second it.
Seconded, Councillor Herbert. Matter open for discussion, Councillor McAdam.
Only comment about Clutha gets an advantage out of it. Come up lower Clutha community facilities rates again. Quite a few of us in that area that live 40 k's away. Probably still have to pay for toilets.
Better than 140 k's away.
How we get to that fund?
What's that?
So we can decide how there is reserves.
Could change it. Could do a combination of both, but
That's what I wondered.
well, that's why we have amendments. So that's what someone wants to do.
Well, I'd do an amendment so that we 50% from the UAGC and 50% from the reserves.
Right, we're going to amendment 50-50 each way. Do I have a second?
District-wide reserve.
Yeah, sorry, Your Worship, it would be better, like when you think about technically how you
Sorry,
structure
lower
that,
community
is to do if you're saying for, like, you say, well, 60,000, for example, 60,000 from the depreciation reserve and 60,000 from the community facility rate. That's how you would describe it, or whatever else you want to say around that.
So Councillor Ludeman's moved, we need a seconder, please.
Yeah, I will second that.
Second, Councillor Payne, the amendments open to discussion. All right, if we're not going to discuss, we'll vote. Councillor Cathal.
Isn't that reserved that you're
I
talking
just-
about?
119,000 is at the start of this financial year.
My discussion is I'm actually not going to vote on this because I'm seeing it as 120 grand to relocate a wee toilet block. I find that excessive. I know that it could come under. I'd actually rather that we actually know the costing, because if I'm allowing myself to open up to 120 grand and there's a set of toilets nearby, do I see that as good value? No, I don't. So therefore I'll be voting against the motion. 120 grand.
Any further before we put the amendment to the vote, Councillor Graham?
Yeah, through you, 2 sets of signs. As said before, how much does that cost? And if you can't walk 350 metres, well, you're not going to be running around a pump track or whatever.
Not everyone goes at the same time.
Councillor Payne.
Yeah, look, I'm supporting this, obviously, but sadly, teenage boys don't take the 200 metre bike ride to the front of that Centennial pole. It's not accessible from the back for safety reasons. And they don't take the 300 metre ride to the other side of the park. All they tend to do is go to that back fence and they get on with what they're going to do. And that's quite offensive to the neighbours down there. And it's really offensive. And I know the committee has had quite a bit of feedback about that. And I think we really need to be supporting this in some way. The stumbling block for me as well is $120,000. I just wish we had a real figure. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I will be supporting this.
Councillor Finch.
Then in response to that, it's an education thing. They wouldn't do that in their own backyard, and I don't see why they should do that in public. No, just listen, I don't see they should do that in a public area, so we need to educate them. But I too would like to see a firm amount of dollars there, so I can't support it, unfortunately. How close the other ones are as well, signage.
Councillor Martin.
I'm just in agreement with what's already been said. I'd be more comfortable to vote on it if we had a fixed cost.
Right, we're going to put the amendment to the vote. Please everyone keep their hands up for Julie to get the hang of it. All those in favour?
Yes, you've just changed it from 50%, 50%, well, 60,000 from the lower Clutha community facilities rate and 60,000 from depreciation reserves.
Right, so please everyone keep your hands high until Julie gives the nod. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, your worship.
All those against, please raise your hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, your worship.
So the amendment is lost. Now please remind me what the original recommendation was. You do it.
He didn't recommend a cost.
He recommended it as it was there. You had first recommendation.
You had, it was moved, Mayor Cadogan and Councillor Herbert, and resolved that council does include an additional 120,000 for a toilet at Centennial Park in 2025-26, funded 50% from the UAGC and 50% lower Clutha community facilities rates, loan funded over a 25-year period.
As it reads.
Different way of doing it. Okay. That Councillor Payne.
Your worship, so that would read up to 120,000, not 120,000.
I hope so, there's savings to be had with it.
No,
and my logic for going that way is that there is a benefit to Clutha. So consequently, that's reflected more than the amendment to appease someone, and I get it, but you know, there are toilets around. But this is a different area, so it's almost like everything else that the community wants, it will all pay for it.
Question. Question.
Make it simple.
If by any chance it was to go over that 120, it's got to come back to the table. No?
15% over.
That'll be unlikely.
two.
Righto. So everyone knows what we're voting on?
So it's not saying up to 120 therefore.
I can if you want them to, but.
Now, what's the recommendation?
Well, it needs to be 120, doesn't it? Because it's got to be put down as a rate. So you've got to put a figure in.
Not next year, the year after.
Yes.
There's money.
Right, so we know what we're voting on. Yes, we do. 120,000, there's no up, I never said up to, I did the resolution, it's what Julie read out. Yeah. Go again then.
So just remember, there's $109,000 sitting in depreciation fund. $119,000 sitting in depreciation fund. It can come back to the table. Let's find out what it's going to cost to relocate some toilets. I think 120,000 to relocate some toilets is excessive. It could be good value for money if it's half of that. It may be possible. Let's see. Apparently, we had 49 tenders on one project just recently. Maybe there's a whole bunch of people lining up to relocate some toilets. I'll still be voting against.
Any further questions? You want the recommendation read out again? Read that again, please, Julie.
That council does include an additional $120,000 for a toilet at Centennial Park in 2025-26, funded 50% from the UAGC and 50% Lower Clutha Community Facilities rates, loan funded over a 25-year period.
Councillor Volwell.
Well, I'm going to vote against this anyway, but I'm not in favour. Still don't think we need the extra toilets for the area. And if we do come back and get a price, if the motion is defeated, and come back and get a price, I'd be happy to look at perhaps using the reserves fund to put toilets in there up to 119,000. So that's just, my rationale for voting vote on this.
Anything else? To the vote? All those in favour, please raise your hand and say aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Your Worship.
All those against, please raise your hand and say no.
7, 8, 9, Your Worship.
So we're back to the start.
That's it.
That's it. Someone else can put another recommendation forward. I've got to check there's not another recommendation out there. Councillor Ludeman.
I'm going to put a recommendation that actually this does come back to council with a fixed price quote, with a proper quote for further discussions. So we're not throwing it out the door. I'm actually asking that staff bring a report back to council on this with a fixed quoted price for the cost of it that we can vote on.
Is that going to be a recommendation? Or is
Yes,
that
it
just
does,
a
however you
request?
like to write it.
Yeah, I think Julie sort of got it, but I'm just wondering whether it was a recommendation or a request.
Yeah.
So if it's a recommendation, I need a seconder, and then we'll go to Donna and a tax. So you're seconding, Michelle, so that opens it. Donna, someone, yep.
I'd just like to clarify that for that kind of value, we're actually going into the closed tender range, not vote range. So we'd have to go for a closed tender.
Well, whatever we have
If it's
to
up
do,
that value.
because if they're not going to obviously approve without a quote, that's the only way we can.
Just
see
because
this through.
I'm mindful that if we go out for quotes, we have to get 3, and if it's over the 100,000, we realistically need to do a closed tender.
What could that cost
Unless
us?
council is happy to agree that we just do the 3 quotes.
What does that process cost?
Time.
Yeah, but there must be a cost.
There'll be some detailed designs from professional service providers, effectively, and it's time for the contractor.
Would it be time enough that it come back to this council or the next council? 5 months? Be this council
This
still?
council. I mean, if councillor, I just want to clarify that if you are happy to do as the 3 quotes, we can, but otherwise it should be closed. The potential value.
Right, okay, so Ali and Michelle have moved and seconded it. That's where we're heading. Any further discussion? Right, put to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, Your Worship.
Those against, please raise your hand.
1.
Dean, you know when you're like that, because both times you were up, so which one was it?
4.
Yeah, no, all I'm saying, because every time you vote, both times, the yes and the no, you had your hand up like that.
It's
Good like that.
13 for and 1 against.
I can hear the groans from next door. Yeah, that was a hard one. Righto, so that is where we are with that one. Councillor Ludeman, what more do you have for us?
Well, I have the fact that it doesn't appear that the hedge trimming is there sitting as a recommendation. And so I don't want it missed.
Just
It's not down in the, it's not down in the.
That's already funded.
The recommendation, which you could come up with something different, but is that it's that work is done through the non-routine budget.
As long as it's being done.
But no new funding is what that means.
Okay.
Okay, hanging baskets. Questions for Mike, Councillor Finch.
How is Balclutha's ones funded, please?
Through Park, through Your Worship, they're through Balclutha Parks and Reserves, so the community facilities rates, and Balclutha had to invest in a watering system, etc. when that was put in as well.
So it's through Parks and Reserves, the thing.
Yeah, which is through community facilities rating.
Thank you.
Councillor McCrosty.
When they were first put in down in Clutha, was that before the CCTVs?
Yes, and we had all
How
else
much damage was, yeah, right. So what I'm trying to allude to there is there is no CCTV in Milton. So if you were going to do it, or anything towards it, I'd be tempted for option 2, that it was a trial without an expensive watering system, etc., etc.
Can I just say what the problem we ran into, because we did that at the start in Clutha, and then Matt, our garden centre, got a 1,000 litre tank on the back of the truck, and every morning went out and watered it, and in the end, putting that water in, it's still the devil of the deep blue sea. And I could see that, and when I read it, here was my pragmatic thinking of the environment that we're in. If it's, because I'm thinking, is this the year that we do hanging baskets? And if it's not the year for Milton, I've got no right to ask for Clutha either. So is it a year that we miss hanging baskets in both towns? I don't like going there, but on a true want to have hanging baskets, and I know Alice can just rip my head off, but in this environment, hanging baskets are not exactly essential. Got everyone's hands up. Anyway, yeah. I'll go Councillor Finch, followed by Catherine. Did you have your hand up, Ella?
Excuse me. So this is not coming from me. Let me stipulate that right here and now. It's not coming from me. I have had so many people come up to me and say, Balclutha gets everything. Like I said, it is not from me. And they are sick of Balclutha getting everything. And this would be something for Milton. And when this was discussed in amongst the new group that's wanting to do this, I was taken in to have discussion with them as well about it. And we sat and we looked at Milton, and we looked at doing the block in the middle of Milton initially for a start, for a trial to see how it would go. And I showed them photos of my hanging baskets to give them a bit of an idea. And then they've gone and said that they'd like them throughout another bigger area in Milton. There's willing people to do stuff to this to get them up and going. That's about all. I just needed to say that there's been a real push to be able to get this for a while, and it was in the Our Place feedback as well, And so it's taken to now to come to this stage.
Councillor Catherwood, Ludeman, Martin.
I just want to say that, the retailers along the strip should be responsible for beautification of their own strip. It's in their own best interest to make that happen. It shouldn't really be on the rest of the ratepayers, and I think the more that the shop owners take responsibility for it. And I know there's areas that fall outside here, there might be empty shops and stuff that need a bit of TLC in that. So I'm not in support of this. I think it might be the year of no flower pots, but what I would say is that I'll happily donate 12 and borrow pot hanging basket pots. They sit around about this round, about 250, 300. I'll happily donate them from my store to Milton, and I'll give you the 16 of them.
Woo! Sorry.
They're free, but the people have to look after themselves.
A generous trial gesture, Councillor Catherwood.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Councillor Martin, followed by Ludeman.
Ludeman, followed.
No, definitely. Oh, was it? Okay, sorry.
You've got
Councillor Ludeman.
selective memory.
Look at that face on it.
Well, as you know, I support fully the hanging baskets, and if you look in Balclutha, they're really good, and the watering system works the best. I mean, to be fair, if you want to trial it by the actual shops watering themselves, we did it in Clutha for 2 or 3 years where we watered ourselves each day, and it's then totally up to the individual shops to do it. And the worst was we found that some didn't. So some of your baskets look good and some weren't so great. So you've got to factor that in when you do it. But I think the last 2 or 3 years, those hanging baskets in Clutha have been great. They haven't been vandalised. And I would hate to not have them there, because I think they're and I see Milton as the entrance really to almost the Clutha district. We've done up the main street. Even if you do a small patch, you don't, in the beginning, you don't have to do a big patch. And yeah, so I would be very much in support of this. Let's actually do something positive, and a small cost for a big one, I feel.
Councillor Martin, followed by Herbert.
Through you, Your Worship, a small cost, 20 grand.
Come on, you share a contract with them.
So, Mike, is Matt, what are they prepared to put towards the installation?
I think they are prepared to put, as Councillor Finch said, just to organise it really and to lead the project.
But like, money-wise, they're saying like the installation estimate is 20 and ongoing costs, and they think council, but what are they actually coming up with?
They're not proposing to put any funding towards.
So they're not prepared to take ownership of the project themselves?
Yes, ownership, no funding.
But how can you own it if you're not prepared to pay for it?
They're prepared to make sure that, because there's quite a lot of work involved to actually bring it all together, to lead to get the baskets prepared and what have you. So I think that's what they see as their role.
Just looking at the small community of elderly people that look after their own hanging baskets in Lawrence, and I don't think it would cost that much annually to do it. But what I'm getting at is that they've got no skin in the game at the moment. I'll put it bluntly.
So no pride.
They want all the money. They don't want to put any contribute towards it at all. But like the CCTV camera situation, the Waka come up with over half the funding. It was a no-brainer. So that's where I sit on it.
So, Councillor Herbert, followed by Finch.
Some time ago, when I was a younger person, we sat around this table and I wish I'd never heard about hanging baskets ever again. But here we are talking about hanging baskets. This might surprise you, but actually, I would like, do we know what the trial would cost?
Through you, Your Worship. Yes. We've got quotes for the installation.
Yeah, but it doesn't say the trial would be a smaller.
I think the trial wouldn't be as big as you were prepared to fund it. Yeah.
But well, fundamentally, I'm sort of sitting here thinking we've just got news in the last day or two of a major business organisation in that area doing something that will change this district forever in a positive way. We're building a new library and service centre there in swimming pool. And we're just on a Main Street upgrade. And we're sitting here arguing about $20,000 to try and make that place look a little bit better. Yeah, no, that's the Milton is on the way up.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
I'm next.
Oh, my goodness, Councillor Herbert.
Settle down, oh my goodness, we're going to Councillor Finch.
Can I just ask, Mike, what funding does Milton Area Promotions actually get?
Oh, they do their own fundraising.
They get no funding.
They don't get funding from council that I'm aware of.
We haven't got any funding to pay for.
From council, not other people, go to funding organisations. But, Your Worship.
I got Councillor Graham first and then, oh my goodness.
Through you, Mr. Chair, look, you did right, Milton has had a Main Street upgraded. And Milton is getting a swimming pool and library, and there's no reason why they can't have hanging baskets the year after next.
Councillor Martin, followed by me.
Your Worship, we haven't even finished the projects on the Main Street of Milton yet. The council has not finished our projects yet. So why would we take on more projects? Let's finish what we've got started.
So, from my perspective, because there was in another life, I was an effervescent young retailer and I did the hanging baskets for a start along the main street. So I look back now at the steps we went through and the costs and like Ali said, when we're all doing them ourselves and trying to coordinate, it was a mishmash. Half the shops didn't do it and they were dead by Christmas, the wind going down the street. So to just say, oh yeah, let's have a trial or don't mess around with a bit. We're either doing it properly or we're not. We'll just look at dog's ear like it did. I think it's greater Dane to say 16 baskets. That would be a good way to start. We could find 16 people really willing to look after them, but we failed every time down in Clutha. So you've wavered me, John, with your impassioned appeal outside of Western Target that there is things happening in Milton and we should be celebrating the town and putting it up the highest pole. So let's get on with it. And by the way, it's 9:05. No, I didn't move it. I'm just saying we are, but let's just get on.
Have a go. Past 5.
Yeah, it's dragging on. Councillor Payne.
I'm pondering it too, and I think I'm supporting this. And I'm wondering about where the money comes from, and can this come from the streetscape pot of gold or not? Is that not a possibility or?
2.25
impact?
Yeah, I agree.
2.25 million. Because I believe that our one came from the Balclutha Main Street upgrade. The original watering thing with the automation that got ripped off the side of the shop was part of the Main Street upgrade. So
That's just parks and reserves now.
And we're only putting it out there as an option. I mean,
Councillor Graham.
What they were going to get from the original budget to what they're going to get now to what they're going to get when you take the hanging baskets off, they would be lucky to get a seat in that plaza. Away we go, just cheap whittling away at it.
Yep.
Turn it into a car park and get even plant the trees there.
Righto, team. Let's Councillor Finch.
Right.
Can everyone remember this morning? Things went on.
Okay, so Balclutha is funded from parks and reserves. What have we got in Milton Parks and Reserves?
Sharon, you got it?
Well, there's no capital funding in Milton Parks and Reserves other than your reserve management plan projects. In the grandstand one, it actually has your non-routine funding of around $40,000 per annum, but that's obviously used for Parks and Reserves maintenance and vandalism and things like that. And we are suggesting or providing the opportunity to do the $2,000 grandstand maintenance out of that existing budget as well, so that'll put more pressure on that. I mean, there's certainly not $20,000 available in those existing budgets.
Right. So 50% from UAG and 50% from funded over a 10-year period. So I'd like to move recommendation 1, include to install the hanging flower baskets, 50% from the UAG and 50% from Bruce Community Facilities rates, loan funded over a 10-year period. And option 3, that we do include an additional $3,750 in the Milton routine parks and reserves for the maintenance of them, 50% from UAG and 50% from Bruce Community Facilities rates.
Got it.
When Calder Stewart get their huge thing up and running and millions of people move into Milton, they will really appreciate Dane donating his 16 large baskets to be able to beautify our main street of Milton. So we may not need all that money because Dane has generously donated 16 baskets already.
So I'm going to move her and need a seconder. Councillor Ludeman, matters open for discussion. Councillor Grant.
I see no reason why it has to go ahead, why it can't be deferred, and if you want to line it up with the development of Melbourne, that's not going to start for 24 months, so that's not going to track. Sorry.
Councillor Boy, who's first? I'll go Catherine with them.
Oh, I'd just like to say that I'll be voting against that, that recommendation, but still happily to donate 16 pots. I won't be lining up for 20 grand on flower pots. I'm happy to donate, and I'd love to see the community get involved and get in behind it and get going. Hey, if you get down the line and you got a couple of slack maintenance going on and you can't sort it out between yourselves, and yeah, come back to us in a couple of years and you might go down this route. But for now, I'm voting against.
Councillor Martin.
Well, you might have to call for a moment's silence. I'm actually going to agree with Councillor Graham here.
Been voting like that all day.
Councillor Graham's got a very valid point. It's going to be a 24-month project, this new development, but critical to that 24-month period is the council might have actually finished what was started on the main street.
Councillor Vowell.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Let's have an amendment.
That council gratefully accepts the offer made by Councillor Catherwood
Yeah, I did.
for 16 baskets, and that these are made available to retail, or to the shop owners, the premises owners on the main street of Milton to install if they so wish, or those who so wish.
Can I just ask a question?
No doubt.
There's already a group of women, of course, that are willing to plant them out. So if you give them to the shop owners, they're not going to plant them out.
Or they can be put on those premises that are willing to take them, and the women who are willing to plant them can still do so.
Okay, so we've now got the amendment, 16 baskets. Is that going to be in a tight group? Because it'll be silly if one was down at the Kinkin Road and the other one was down by the church. So we're just doing it in the main group, or what are your thoughts for details?
We counted up for a start in the main area, and I think there was 10 or 12 or 14, I can't remember now total. So the 16 would do the middle bit.
Sounds like let's test the will of the crowd. Mover, seconder, discussion. Right, put to the vote, please hang them high. All those in favour, please raise your hand and say aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Those against?
Is that
Who was against? Something happened. No, I think there was two, wasn't there?
Councillor Martin and Councillor Scott.
Got it. Right, so that now becomes the substantive motion, which is now open for discussion. Do we do a discussion? No, we don't. We go to the vote. Is everyone ready for the vote? All those in favour, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye. Thank you, Dan.
3 days.
All those against, please raise your hands. And somehow Councillor McCrosty managed to rub us through. Keep them down. You're right.
Yeah, I've got
Done.
that.
We're right. We move on.
Your worship, just looking at, just a suggestion, just looking at time and looking at the body of the report we have, there are a lot of single resolutions and further in the body of the report that ask for approval of carry forwards. There's a table 1 on page 64 that has all those carry forwards listed that are in those individual resolutions. We've done a capital projects carry forward approval in the earlier pages. If you were prepared to consider the table for the approval of the carry forwards, and you can still debate if you want to any of those particular ones, but you could still be a much quicker way
Move
of
them
removing
holus
a holus bolus.
Yep.
And that would get rid of all those as you get later on in the report, and then you just deal with the ones that are discretionary.
Right. So can we just dwell for 30 seconds on page 64? It's only that lot, or it's that lot?
It's only page 64, the table 1. That's the carry
Right.
forward.
So if we go to 64, I've had a quick look down and I could see they could go holus bolus. Their carry forwards, they've already all been funded for. There's the investment or that one community support grant.
Happy to move forward.
So for George.
Before we do this, I want to, just if there are any questions, then we'll go to that. Councillor Phelps, followed by Kennedy.
Can I just ask the catch point sort? Life saving, is that to do with the rebuild or?
That's right, Your Worship. Yes, it is. Yep. Yes, it is. Yep. So that was a grant that was allocated through that last year's LTP, but for this coming year.
Because they're going out building that thing, so is this still going to that?
It's a contribution towards the rebuild of the Surf Life Saving Club.
Councillor Kennedy.
Just a question there to Mike. There is no carry forward for any of West Pargo's.
Through Your Worship, that funding has already been carried forward by the
Wanting to make sure
which is different.
I hate if we missed that.
Righto, so we can see them all there. Councillor Finch, were you moving?
Yes, please.
Who's seconding? Councillor Kennedy, can you see what we're doing, Julie? We're
Oh, no, I've got it. Yeah, I'm just trying to. I have got it. I'm just doing the reading.
So you'll be right. We keep going, and you'll know what we're doing.
Because I'm not, well, Steve, was the easiest way just to insert that table and then just.
Well, you can, I mean, for you, for later,
Yeah.
you're just saying we're approving the carry forwards in table 1.
Yeah.
Right. So that's effectively the resolution.
Yeah.
So we know what we're voting on, team. No further discussion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. Right, done. Can you just, Steve, tell me which pages moving forward I now take out?
Just wherever you see a carry forward request, Your Worship, we've already done it.
Hit me if I start getting confused.
Page 68.
Yeah.
Grandstand maintenance.
Right, page 68, grandstand maintenance. Not Lily, Mike. Mike, have you got anything there?
Nothing to add.
Questions for Mike, team? No questions, open up for debate. What's everyone's thoughts?
Just happy to move.
Can we have a discussion before we go straight through when there's 6 hands up? It's probably not going to happen. So Councillor McCrosty, Kennedy, Graham, and then there was some down here.
So, you know, this is something that we'd had quite a wee while ago. I used to be the president of the AMP, and it was an ongoing thing. It's something I've dropped off. It's been used for not only the grandstand, but general maintenance of mid hedges, et cetera, I think it's well worthwhile. Those guys do a lot of work. They'll replace seats and stuff themselves. It's pretty minimal ask, $3,000.
Yeah. We've got Kennedy, Graham. Then we'll get going. Yep.
I understand it's a minimal ask, but my concern is safety and well-being. There's a lot of people that can sit in these grandstands, and we don't want a Cave Creek disaster. I see that desktop seismic assessment, it's not actually, it could be made vulnerable. So the group that are in charge of the grandstand, is there insurance and stuff for public liability, or how does this work?
We got insured? Yeah.
It is?
Yes, we do, but I would have to go and check for what, whether it's indemnity or replacement.
Councillor Graham, I think it was, and then Herbert, was it?
To me, look, I've been in the grandstand quite a few times this year, and it is packed on Saturday when the boys are playing at home, and even on a AMP show day. So, yeah, I think they've been doing a lot of the maintenance out of their own pocket. I think I've seen a couple of the rugby boys carpenters repairing some of the timber on it. So yeah, this is a pittance to get it right.
Councillor Herbert.
Yeah, look, I absolutely support it too, but my worry is a little bit like Councillor Kennedy's, and it just worries me that it may be vulnerable in the seismic assessment. Well, I could probably go and tell you that. I think if desktop, one of my experiences, an initial seismic assessment, they tell you it's 0 to 33, 33 to 66 or above. They give you a range, and if it's below that, then you do the detailed one. So I hope we didn't pay too much for a report that just tells us it's vulnerable, because it's pretty crystal ball. It's pretty out there. It's not informative at all. I'm quite disappointed that we don't know what its rate is. It's a public building with people, and we just heard it's packed. We probably should know what its assessment number is.
Keeping that in mind, for the fact that the conversation's been in one direction and we're discussing $2,000, I want to start testing the meetings. So, Councillor Flynn.
That we allocate towards $2,000 towards the maintenance of the grandstand from existing funding.
Seconder, Councillor McCrosty. Discussion. Councillor McTammany.
I would have gone for the third option, and so it became ongoing, 25, 26 onwards.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine, sorry, 3.
So I'm now going to go back to McCrosty seconding. So we're now number 3.
Yeah, sorry.
Right. Anything else to add before we hit the vote? Put to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. Additional work budget, Outplace Minton.
This is carried forward.
Next one, Outplace Minton Dog Park.
Yeah, well, you don't want to have them left.
What's happening, Tim? So, no questions, so Councillor Finch.
So I'll talk to this because I've been involved in it one heck of a lot. There's been 16 huge trailer loads of rubbish taken away to my dump bit in my paddock. We did a huge working bee cutting back all the shrubs along the fence between the AMP showgrounds and where this is. Carted a whole lot of sawdust and everything backwards and forwards and round. We've actually started planting out where you can see in that photo there's rocks around. We've filled that all up. That's going to be an existing little part of the garden with carrots planted in it and rocks in it. We've got a bit further work to do. There's going to be some very hardy shrubs planted along the fence line. It goes underneath the trees for the dogs to be able to run in and around. There was,
Yeah, again, we've read it.
Yeah.
right, well, it's a really community project. We have done all the hard graft in here. So asking for this is very little to put towards it.
Who else? Councillor Vowell.
I think rubbish bins are perhaps fair enough there, but I'm not sure about bag dispensers. I mean, if people are going up there to walk their dogs, to exercise their dogs, they should be responsible for at least taking the bags
They have it at Clutha.
themselves. And so, just in terms of cost, I'm not in favour of that, but the rubbish bins and the maintenance of the rubbish bins I could be happy with.
Councillor Catherwood.
Yeah, well, on the same lines. Otherwise, you set a precedent in every little town. Dogs are walked everywhere. We have a huge amount of dogs visiting the township. I live on the, operate my business from the main street. We've got a council controlled bin in the middle of the main street. One up near another set over near the public toilet. There's another set down by the local museum. There's been no issues. Everyone's got their own bags. We don't have any issues at all, and it ends up in the public rubbish bin. So I'm all for supporting them with an additional rubbish bin, Milton Dog Park. We funded from the RMP additional work budget, and obviously that requires additional funding for the rubbish bin, and leave it at that. So 2 recommendations I'll be happy to move, and 2 I'll be happy to leave.
So I am coming around, but I'll take the 2 recommendations for the rubbish. So the second,
yeah, 2.
Councillor Ludeman. Right, matters open. So that's open for discussion. Councillor Finch.
How many dog poop dispensers are at the Balclutha Dog Park, please, Mike?
I think we should remember that the Balclutha Dog Park was entirely paid for by Clutha vets, and what they wanted to put in was their own. We shouldn't be, we've really got to get away from Clutha's got this and Wack's got that. The dog park in Balclutha and all the facilities that were put in it were decided by Clutha vets.
They might sponsor Milton.
Councillor Phelps.
I'll just say, because I was involved with the dog park in Balclutha, the bag dispenser is quite necessary because a lot of people don't take their bags, and it's bad enough there is a dispenser there they don't pick up. And I think it seems a lot of money, but it is quite a necessary thing at a dog park.
Councillor Graham.
I'd suggest that Milton Dog Park Group look for a sponsor for their dog poop, whatever it is, dispenser and we'll supply the rubbish. But yeah, let's get on with it. I'm prepared to move. One.
No, we've already done it.
No, number 2.
2 does not, and 2 does not. 1 does not, and 3 does not.
Correct.
So you're saying a different way of doing it. So we're yesing to one and knowing to the other. Is that an amendment? No, it's not. It's just
no. I'll put it.
It's wrong. Sorry, it's the wrong way because you were intending positively to say yes to the resolution to rubbish bins and the maintenance.
Yep.
So you have to actually say yes to that as a resolution. Otherwise, and then you could do that, and then you could have a debate if you want about the funding of the dog poop thing. But at least it's a resolution to do something. That's what Councillor Catherine.
So we've got a recommendation. We're talking that. So we're only at the moment talking of rubbish buckets. If dog poops want to come along in 5 minutes' time, so be it. But we'll do the yes or the no on the rubbish buckets, and then we'll do the yes or the no on the dog poop.
Okay, so moving. Recommendation that council does include additional 2,500 to install an additional rubbish bin at the Milton Dog Park to be funded from the RMP additional work budget, as it reads 2, and And recommendation for that council does include an additional 1,000 per annum to the Milton Routine Parks budget from 25 and 26 onwards to maintain the additional rubbish bin. Milton Dog Park funded 50% on the UAGC, 50% community facilities.
Right, so now we know that the discussion's only on the rubbish buckets, we can sort the who's at the moment.
I will second it.
Councillor Ludeman.
You still second it? Right, any discussions just on the rubbish? If not, we'll put that bit to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Now we can move on. Is there any further recommendations to be voted on? Bruce?
Yeah, that the council, I've lost where it is now.
Number
Number 1 and 2, that the council does not, 1 and 3, the council does not include an additional for a dog poop thing, and 3 doesn't include $1,000 to maintain.
Right, so I've got a mover, seconder, please.
I'll second it.
Seconded, Councillor Ludeman. Discussion. No discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
So everybody except Councillor Finch and Phelps, and what about yourself?
Yeah, no more hands down. Yeah, we can put them down, and those against?
Finch and Phelps sounds like something you have to make. Just sure as you get insurance.
Maybe some signage about bringing your own beer.
Righto, our place Kaka Point toilets. Mike, any?
No, nothing to add, Your Worship.
Questions for Mike? Councillor Martin.
Through you, Your Worship. Mike, the council rating staff estimate, like when we say would be about $8,000, would they say not up to $8,000 or?
Through Your Worship, that's pretty much their words, that that's their estimate to do that work based on their expertise.
So it would be, well, not up to, about.
Didn't they clear that?
Clear the plants.
Further question, Councillor Payne, is it?
Thank you, Worship. Mike. So I'm mindful that on the day that Mike Stevens said that he was asking for forgiveness because they've already cleared the garden. They were asking whether they could do it, so I'm mindful of that. So that might adjust the price a little bit. It's just a statement. I didn't really have a question, but it doesn't bring the price down, I guess, would be the question in any way.
Well, as noted in the report, yeah, potentially.
Councillor Catherwood.
I'm just going to support this great community group. They really, they want to get their teeth into it. There's never enough car parks down there on a hot sunny day, or a surf life-saving practice day, or farmers for surfing day. There's just never enough parks along there. They may be undercooked actually. Maybe they should have gone bigger, but it's a good start. It's 14,000 on a car park. I think around the district is pretty reasonable on the top side. So I'll be happy to move that we do an additional 14,000.
Seconded, please. Seconded, Councillor Phelps. Do we have any further discussion? Councillor Ludeman.
I've just got a question, and that by doing this car park now, before they've actually done their build, is that the right way to be doing it? So that's my concern, that we're doing it a bit round the wrong way, that we would be better having the build done and then doing all the car park and everything around it. So I'd be concerned that we're spending this money for it to be damaged or something and then have to redo it.
Councillor Grant.
Yeah, just in reply to that, I think there's probably advantages both ways, and you're dealing with experienced builders and that. If you look at like Tacoma, the advantages of having a clear level area there and put all the gear makes it easy to work around. I think it's 6.5 dozen the other.
Through you, Your Worship, this budget's in the next financial year, so we can spend it up until June next year. So we would work with the group and figure out what the best timing is with it.
They got their sleeves rolled up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
they do.
fine, it was just a question.
So is there any more questions? If not, put the vote, all those in favour? Dane? Yeah. Gertie? Yep, we're all reacting, I thought that's anonymous.
Read the next one.
Yeah, righto, Wilshire Bay Reserve, Mike.
Just note that in that table, there, table 5, Your Worship, that the operational cost on that first row, it should be $1,000, not $650. I'm not sure how that got in, but the recommendation is correct. It's just that table as well.
At the bottom amount is 6,500.
debate. Well, this one's easy, isn't it?
What's that, righto, what are we doing? Dave?
Well, I think we want to wind Councillor Finch up. Be consistent, the recommendation is, does not include $1,200. As well, they'll be hitting on this one. Definitely a rubbish bin required, Wilshire Bay. That's a community really getting in behind their domain that's been underutilised for quite some years. It's a fantastic piece of real estate in our district, and there really is a community vibe that want to get down there and utilise it. Hence, there's quite a bit coming through the next few recommendations. So I'll be in full support of the rubbish bin. The entranceway, I think, has now been identified from staff, so they've brought through an estimated price, I think, for a culvert installed to sort out in and out scenario. I think it's very fair. So then the next one would be out, because we're not doing dog poop dispenser and being consistent. And then I would like to see support to obviously maintain the rubbish bin. That's a given. If you're going to put one there, we need to maintain it. And I know for a fact that the South Roads lady that goes around doing the wheelie bin facilities in Carker Point, it's more than enough going on right through the whole summer period. She gets overwhelmed by it all. So the more bins maybe help her out. And that council does include $4,500 to open the Wilshire Bay main toilets on a trial basis, because it's on a septic tank. I think we need to be very careful that we commit for too long. I think have a trial, because if we do have a failure there, it could be quite an expensive exercise. And remember, we are putting new toilets just down the road. It's a bit further than just down the road. It's about encouraging the young families, the Carker Point community that live, work, play there, going down with their kids and kicking footballs. It's a decent big area for them to go and play on. They really want to get into a bit of cricket. That's how I'll be voting.
I go along with Dane's what he's saying, other than when we get to the last one. I went down and had a look at the Wilshire Bay toilets, and mostly, they're old. The roof area, the catchment area for the rainwater is about the size of that carpet there. It's quite close to that sensitive lagoon entranceway. I just thought $4,000. We don't do anything for $4,000. What are we going to get? So you do a trial. Either are we going to do it properly? We're dealing with sewage, water, and stuff like that. Probably have to do it properly, and I don't know how far we're going to get for $4,000. I'll roll with it, but $4.5 is going to make absolutely no difference to $4. You know, we just talked of a toilet for $120. My only concern is, what do you get for $4,000 when you're talking water, sewage, and Karora Creek and 30,000?
Well, to maintain, they've tied the toilet block up. They've installed a larger tank already. So obviously, there's got to be the $4,500 obviously is towards maintenance, cleaning costs, toilet roll, etc., etc. Remember, it's for that community, as well as families to go and enjoy that area. I think they'll take quite a lot of ownership of their own, of having that facility open and available to them. I suppose the only way the cost would blow out is if we had a very dry period where they couldn't replenish the water tank and it would require some form of tanker. But I think you'd actually find as that community gets them backs themselves, that they'll sort the problem out themselves.
I'm willing to roll with it. You know, it's a community that rolls their sleeves up. all I'm saying is the hesitation for anyone that hasn't been down there. It's going to be quite a transformation to get things up and going, but it's something at 5:41 at night. I'd probably just roll with. Ken Stevens and them.
That's just for 2 months. They're talking on a trial basis for
Yeah.
a couple of months over the busy period.
So if I transform what you said into a recommendation, is that what we're doing?
Yep, so it's agreeing with all, including everything, besides the dog poop, purchase and dog poop maintenance, and everything else is does.
Do we get a seconder on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to see
Well, that Councillor Payne seconded it. Have we got a conversation on it, Councillor Wheeler?
Just the entranceway, see that's, the proposal is it's funded from the UAGC and the community facilities rate, but could that come out of the roading budget?
No, so if it was replacing the existing one, then they would look at that, but for any new ones, it's funded by basically the property owner, which is in this situation is us.
Okay.
Are we ready for a vote, team? Okay then, everyone in favour of the recommendations, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Those against? Unanimous. Shan, just at this point, you don't have a running score, do you?
Yes, your worship, it's currently the rates are sitting at 16.02 approximately.
And off the fund, the amount was spent, so it's still 120, whatever it was. Okay, we've got a few that are carried forward, so kick me if I'm wrong, but 3.8, 3.9, keep going through, 3.12 is the next. The next one I've got that's not a carry forward is 3.13, am I right? Entrance to Gabriel's Gully.
That's a carry forward. 315. 315 is the next one at the bottom of page 74.
315 carry forward. Righto, so the next one is Lawrence Topeka Community Board, remove pine trees from Lawrence Cemetery. Mike, anything?
Nothing to add.
Questions for Mike? Gainer?
Can I just ask, are they in the way of something, Mike, or are they unsafe?
I'm not aware that they're necessarily unsafe. It's more just, I think it's amenity value, because that area was quite a mess, and they have done some work there. But I guess they see an opportunity to make further improvements for a pretty important part of that cemetery.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Team? Discussion. Councillor Ludeman, followed by Harold.
Discussion, I guess, is that I support this. I can remember this has been talked about for a number of years, and I would support it coming from funded from cemetery reserves.
Yeah.
Councillor Harold.
I'm happy to move in that direction, Your Worship. If you're $84,000 there, and we're going to take 10 grand to some trees and trees down. So I'm happy to move that we do include that.
Yep. Seconded by Councillor Ludeman. Discussion. Councillor Martin.
I was just going to add to the discussion point. So the good work in the Chinese corner of the cemetery, which has recently been completed, that was all tidied up down there. Now that that's all tidied up, we've got all these old wilding old man pines that jut out from the new work that's been cleared on the way back up the headstones up the lanes. So there's more than one bloody big old man pine. There's quite a few ugly old man pines there that all pose a bit of a concern moving forward.
Fundraiser for Paul.
Right.
Wood chips from the boiler. Hanging baskets.
Let's stay. Where are we?
You've got motions.
Yeah, we've got a motion. Right. All those in favour, please raise your hand, say aye. Too easy. On to our place, Kaitangata Riverside Trail. Mike, anything?
Nothing to add.
Questions, team? Councillor Finch?
Have they been asked if they'd be willing to mow that area?
Through your worship. So that is an option provided for here, this which would be number 3.
Yeah.
If council chose that option, then yes, the intention would be that community members, not necessarily Kai Promotions, would use said mower to mow said lawns.
But you haven't asked them.
But yes, they are happy with that option.
Right.
Councillor Graham, followed by Ludeman.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it has been discussed about mowing them, but you've got to remember that the Kai Promo mainly consists of people older than Councillor Paul Wheeler. So, yeah. Look, if you look at the track, it's about 3/4 of a kilometre or something, isn't it, right? What they actually plan to do, if you've been down there in the Memorial Garden, there's people have donated benches and they plant shrubs in memory of their loved ones and all that sort of stuff. What they plan on doing is actually having picnic tables and that the whole length of develop the whole length of it. So it'll be I don't know, it'll be amenity planting all the way along there with picnic tables and that sort of stuff, and it'll be the Riviera of the south. When you look at, if you look at the development from Marmite's camping ground right round, with what they've done with they've really spruced it up. So the far end of it is people were mowing it themselves anyway. So it's just a continuation of that, and bottom line, they'd be thankful to get it mowed twice a year. But they are prepared to. I'd probably even go and do it on my ride on if I had a couple of days and it's half dozen studies.
Councillor Tammany, followed by Catherine.
I'll be quite open to this, but I wouldn't be keen on recommendation 3, purchasing a mower, just for the sheer sake that Councillor Graham could just drive off into the river.
Councillor Catherwood, then Martin, then I'll be looking for a recommendation.
Yeah, so I'm looking at recommendation 2, but somehow that is directed to the Kai Promotions actual group. They know they've got the support there to maintain mowers and potentially buy their own ownership mower. But I know that we get good value for money. We've got a guy that does the combined sports body, which is Councillor Brown. It's a local private guy. It's his own mower. He does his own thing. He delivers actually really good value for money. Would you say, Jules? Bruce?
Pretty good.
Yeah. So he does. So two, so it's fixed per annum and it carries on onwards, not just a one-off grant, but somehow it falls into the hands of the Kai Tangata District Promotions Group. So they create the destiny of how good they want it. It's the funds they get.
Through you, Worship, just one little fish hook is it is beside a road that we would be endorsing them to be doing that. And it is actually quite a big area. It's about 5,000 square metres. So it's actually not an insignificant amount to be mowing on a regular basis, if it's regular. If it's twice a year, it might not be quite so bad. But we've looked at this and priced this up as per our burn rates and our green space contract. No, not twice a year. It's to meet the specification of their burn mower. So just making that clear that once it is a nice area, I wouldn't be surprised if the expectations would be more than mowing it a couple of times a year. So yeah, that's just wanted to make sure you're aware of the what we had allowed for in the pricing.
So is that your $5,000 estimate?
No, it's based on the area and our rates in the contract. Not an estimate. That's what it's going to cost us to get it mown.
5,000 grand by South.
Councillor Grant.
So one suggestion there has been is 2 mowers, and you could have a sort of a Grand Prix thing, because I think there's probably a building inspector here or something like that that'd be quite willing to try it. But the thing with having your own mower, I think the health and safety thing would probably come into it, and as I said, the age of the Kai Promo, they might pop off and then forget where they put the mower. So I would be supporting 2.
Have we got a mover for that yet, Julie?
No, we don't.
No, we don't. Are you going to move it, Bruce? Just to move things along. Number 2, is that what you do? Right, so councillor Graham's moved number 2. Have we got a seconder? Councillor McCrosty? Any further discussion before we put to the vote? All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Now, I looked at our place West Otago and there's no recommendation, but then it's a carry forward on my right, so I just keep going. So it's what's get done. Then we go carry forwards for quite a bit until we get to Clinton, do we? Is it Clinton, yeah, Clinton Community Committee submission.
21.
Page
78. 78, 79, yeah, they're all the thing. Questions for Mike, please? No questions? Matters open for discussion. Oh, sorry, I do have one question. Benji dragged me down last week when the tanks were empty and was saying, hey, we need to upgrade. It's always the other pipe work, George, you'll know better. The last bit that goes into Clinton. Linda said it was on the program, and yet I looked through here and I couldn't see it anywhere. Is that last bit of the water piping somewhere else, so it's not here?
That would be in our water.
Right, so somewhere else. It wasn't in that. He was calling it in our place, Clinton, but that's all right, if it's something else. Okay, so if there are no questions for Mike, discussion. Dave?
Happy to support this. I think seeing Clinton come to the council, around the council table a couple of times, they're getting positive, they're getting traction, they're taking ownership of their township, and it's not a lot of money. It's pretty fair, so I'd be in full support of it. I'd be happy to make a recommendation.
Councillor Mackie?
I'm happy to move.
So you're moving, there's Dane seconding?
Yep.
As it reads?
Does include.
Yep. Okay, so we know what we're voting on. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, then the rest, as I see it, are carry forwards until we get to our place, Torrey Mill, Sawmill Creek maintenance. Is that how we have it? Good, done. Any questions for Mike? Open for discussion.
Your worship, if I could just.
Oh, sorry, yes, certainly, Mike,
Just
if you've got
add
something.
one note, I guess, is that really the two recommendations are, my view would be that they're both, it's both or neither. Because if you were to, for example, approve number 1 but not 2, you're going to have a problem with regrowth, etc. So they sort of go together. Although they are separated out, they go together.
Right, so let's just keep that in mind as we move forward. Any questions first? Are we with questions? None? Discussion? Councillor McCrosty.
I actually quite like this idea and the fact that Jace came to us with it. You know, probably you could look at Torrymouth as the forgotten cousin, a wee bit. And these guys are prepared to do a bit themselves. You know, Jace has got on board. And it's actually going to tidy up an area that's been fairly well neglected for quite a while. You know, if you go, the council does include 10 grand and does include 2 grand's worth of spraying, it's not too bad for what we're getting out of it. So here we go.
Your worship, we're just throwing in the wondering that because it's a project related activity, even though it's multiple years just for the spraying, that's still a fixed period thing. That the funding option could be the investment
For the whole project.
For the whole project.
Because once you spray those couple of years, you're probably on top of it and hoping that the plantings are coming through. So, yeah. Anyone got Councillor Phelps followed by Finch?
Well, that's Councillor McCrocky. Is there a lot of people, like tourists go, like I haven't been, just wondering, is there a lot of tourists going there? Or
There is actually, and then the weekends and stuff, and there'll be coffee cart and bits and pieces. You go over there around the Christmas New Year period, that place is packed.
I was there for Saturday breakfast and there were at least 30 ratepayers questioning me all the way. A lot of people. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. It is a really, really well-used area all around Tari Mouth and unfortunately has been left to go back. There was use of it years ago and that's been an issue, and so to carry on the maintenance would be absolutely and totally necessary. When we had trees planted at Livingstonia, the maintenance wasn't gone and we lost a lot. And they're willing to get stuck in and do a lot of this, and so I fully support this.
Councillor Harriman.
So just to clarify what CE just said, so Steve, you're talking about the $10,000 to clear the gorse, just possibly coming out of investment reserve?
Yes, but also when you see that it's the maintenance is just for a finite period as well. It's
$22,000 project.
I've had a little bit of experience with gorse, and it doesn't have a finite period. It keeps growing. Sorry, it doesn't take too many days off. It will grow out of a creek or it will grow out of a rock. You're going to have gorse there for a wee while. I know you're going to plant it, but gorse will be there. So, but I'm happy to support it. But really, I think that it's a one-off for $10,000. So happy for it to be taken out of the investment surplus. But wondering where those proposed $2,000 and $5,000, would that come out of the Parks and Reserve for spraying, or what program would that come out of?
Through you, Your Worship, it would need to be added into our Parks and Reserves cost if you wanted to operationally fund it. If you treat it as a one-off project, you say you're going to take this much out, and then that's what's available for it. You have to look at it again after that.
Councillor Finch, were you wanting to make a recommendation?
Yes, please, except I've just drawn through it. Hold on, I'll just get my page back again. So I'd like to move recommendation 1 that we do include $10,000, and that's out of the investment surplus, and that we include $2,000 for spraying, 25, 26, and then $5,000 per year, 26, 27, 27 and 28. And can that also come out of, because it's ongoing, the investment surplus as well?
Have a seconder. Seconder, Councillor Volwell. Discussion? No discussion. Put to the vote if there's no discussion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Say aye.
Aye.
They're all slowly going up, Your Worship. They're all up.
Keep them up while we haven't got up there. Are we done? And then, no, it's not all up, and then those against.
You're against it?
You're
No, I'm not.
I was reading.
So you're against it, you two?
They had their hands
No,
up.
we just said hold it up.
Yeah, and then we went yes, and then
All we heard was keep it up.
It's not even.
For the way the recommendation read.
Yeah.
10 grand. Maybe the maintenance. In 3 years' time, the gorse coming back.
Right, that brings those ones to a conclusion. Over to page 85, annual plan funding decisions. Sharon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I please just confirm your ask decision? So it was 10,000 appearing from the investment surplus and the 3 lots of
Yes.
Yeah, it's read.
22,000 for the project.
You want a minute to sort yours? No, you're right.
No, thank you, Your Worship. So you.
Excuse me, do we need, is this getting recorded? Do we need Sharon at the microphone for a critical bit like this? Sorry, Sharon, but if it's getting recorded, we've been caught out before with this.
Thank you, Your Worship. So following decisions that you've made today, you have spent $140,165 from the investment surplus, and we're sitting at 16.04% in rates increase at the moment, but just bearing in mind that that may change as we actually run the numbers through the system. But anyway. So.
Sorry, how much in the investment?
You've spent $140,165, so that leaves $857,000 and change.
The real figure.
We did
No.
857,137.
No. The real figure.
So we had a long discussion on this morning, Gaynor, so
I'll tell you later.
Right, let's bring it in, guys. So Sharon, you got more?
No, just that if you go to item number 9, which is an item for decision, this is your chance to note the position that I've just outlined and that you either resolve to accept all the decisions you've made or amend specific changes. And we also need to go back and bring the other resolutions.
From page 35. Do I do that now or do I had that I was going to do it at the end after I've done?
Your worship, you would just make sure you close out whether or not like thinking about the big picture of just what you've gone through today.
Yeah.
Was that final option that said, oh, well, at the end of the day, you could change things.
Yeah.
And so you probably need to close that out and then you can go back to finalise the.
No. So now what I'll do this page, then I'll go back to 35, then we'll just tick off these and charges and letters to the people. So, questions for Sharon? I have one and I don't even want to ask it, but I will. You know how this morning we were talking about how we didn't get to budget, and so in effect the depreciation accounts, we were in deficit as such in one place. My brain's gone to mush and I can't remember where it was. Dane, you were talking about it, how there is a deficit that we're holding. We've got 857,000 of last year's. I'll keep that there forever, but I suppose it is a consideration. Do we take that to square the ledger?
Yes.
Or some of that to square the ledger? I'm asking as devil's advocate because it is an option, but I'm just throwing it out there so that people are thinking of it.
Sorry, because I don't actually follow you. I don't understand what you mean by square the ledger. Could you just explain that, please?
So, right, we budgeted 5 point something and we got 3, you know how we didn't reach the budget, we took the 800,000 off and that left us technically in deficit. There was one other figure, help me out here, Dane, where I am.
So we chose not to depreciate because we didn't have the funds?
No, we don't fund transportation depreciation. The valuation increased.
Go back to it.
We don't fund all of our depreciation anyway. Sharon, I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about.
So I don't want to say the figure that's wrong, but I've highlighted 206,663. One of them was in effect a paper deficit. I don't want to do it. I'm only just throwing it out there that we wouldn't tick that off, seeing as we have got the reserve account at 857,000. Alice?
What's wrong with leaving that reserve account? It's invested.
Yep.
What's wrong with leaving it there?
Nothing. I'm just checking that everyone's comfortable.
No,
There was talk this morning that we shouldn't have a deficit part of the account. If we're all happy with it, then Bob's the uncle.
Yeah, because all we've effectively done today is decide that we're going to withdraw another $140,000 from our investments to pay for various community projects.
Yeah.
It's as simple as it is. I mean, we've always got that right. We decided in December that we'd take $2.5 million out at some point from the investment surplus, regardless of the actual returns for the year.
Yep. And when you consider, like we said right at the start of the day, next year's slightly more difficult than this year, so to have 857 in there is good. I just, as I said, want to be devil's advocate that when we talked this morning of technically a deficit that we want to square. So now, if there's no further questions, I should say, there's no further questions from me, but that doesn't mean you might know something. Does anyone have anything? There's some recommendations down there in front if you want to move them along. Councillor Payne, I think was first.
Well, look, I think we've had an outstanding result today. When I look at that, I think it's probably as good as we could have got. And based on that, I'm prepared to move 1, 2 and 3A.
Seconder? Councillor Herbert? Discussion? Councillor Martin.
So we started the day looking down the barrel at, what was it, 1.2 in the community funding. And we landed at 144.
Sort of, yeah.
So we get
950.
Some was funded from rates as well.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
funded from the right source.
Yeah, we could have done.
997.
Yeah, but, and also to be mindful, we have to have those other challenges that we'll be faced with when the staff get back to us with this reviews on the pools. So we'll soon get rid of it.
Righto, so
You'll be reminded.
we've got the 3 recommendations need to vote on. There's no further discussion. Put the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Can we please go back to page 35? That we confirm the overall rates increase of tentatively 16.04. Is that it, Sharon?
Correct.
35.
And that your minor adjustments. What else do I put on there, Sharon? Or what percentage?
Through you, your worship, I think this resolution, because we have to run all the adjustments through the system, this resolution is to say that it's not going to be bang on 16.04.
Yeah. So you know where there's that gap and then a percentage, what do we put in there?
I just wonder, Your Worship, that we've still got a resolution to happen to adopt a annual plan, correct?
Yeah.
So we will have the exact figures for the adoption of the annual plan. I think the idea is that we don't have the information to allow us to print the rates examples, to finalise everything completely, and therefore be certain about those specific figures.
Yeah.
I think we've got an indicative figure. Your expectation, our expectation is we are around that and we don't reach our 30% cap. And that's what you should expect to see us bringing back for adoption on the adoption date. So I think Jules has mentioned it, I think he's right, the resolution 3 about confirming the indicative overall rates increase, because that's what the starting point for us is in terms of getting to that point. That will allow us to bring you a no surprises tabled, a no surprises adopted annual plan rate.
What about number 4? Are we doing anything with that?
I think we just leave number 4 actually. I don't think we need it, do we, Sharon? We could leave it without that.
Through you, your worship, the only reason you might want to put it in is just to approve any minor changes and.
Oh, yes. It is tentatively in there by saying indicative, but
yeah. I
think if we just left resolution 4 to be that council approves any final minor adjustments to be made.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So everyone's cutting on to what we're doing. Yeah. Indicative 16.04, and only the first 7 or 8 lines on that. Option 2, recommendation 2. We all sweet with that. Any discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, hold on with you. I'll move it. Both of them. Someone seconding, please. Councillor Phelps. Everyone comfortable? Put to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Thank you. Now if we can go over to fees and charges page.
86.
Who is it? Trey. Greg's here. Hang in there till the end, Greg. Well done.
Trey's away, so I'll cover that for them. But yeah, that was just going to be taken as read. If there's any questions or discussion.
Yep. We plowed our way through this a few days back, didn't we? So what's everyone's thoughts? Any questions to Greg? Or is someone going to have an epiphany moment and move everything? Councillor Finch.
And can I just had a question on page 91, printing of electronic plans, 20 cents, 40 cents, $1, $2. Does that even cover costs? And then there was more for photocopying, and they were basically the same. And your caravan storage limited to 4 spaces, $10 a week. To store a caravan anywhere else, you'd be paying way more than $10, I would imagine. That was on page 5. And then on page 97 is your ring binding, and it's $2, $2.30, $2.60, $3, $3.50. I mean, are we covering our costs for that?
I mean, your worship and councillors, apologists would, I mean, they might all be valid questions that we might not have answers for because they're having to write them down, but I suppose the point would be none of this has changed when we went out for consultation, so they could have been questions that we might have been able to sort out before we went out for consultation, and I'm just not sure we got the answers to that one now.
Okay, that's fine, because there was others that was just way too cheap. I was like, that's fine.
Councillor Herbert.
I'll have a move all 5 recommendations if you like.
I'd love it. Moved all 5, councillor Leatherman seconding.
And I'll second, noting that this has all been out to consultation and we've discussed this many times. Let's get on with that.
Yeah. Councillor Vowell.
Just on page 115, it's water, urban supply of water. Just, it's got Waihola there, it includes North Bruce contribution.
Yeah, that needs
to be changed.
So those minor adjustments would have been done by the CEO and covered, so take.
We've taken
Minor
amendment.
Yeah. So we've got all 5. Any further questions, discussion, or we're putting it to the vote? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, thank you. Final one is just accepting the letters that, for some unknown reason, late last night I put words to every one of them, but that ain't happening.
Just a point as Peter comes up, your worship, we, in the past, there used to be a spreadsheet, individual pages now, but just to assist you, often you'll go through this page by page, which is okay, but the more difficult ones we've highlighted, actually they're going to warrant individual letters, and so hopefully that will mean the easy ones are left for you that you can just agree with generally, and it should be quick. But we have highlighted that actually some of them are quite extensive submissions that require decent responses, and we're going to shift those to the adoption date, and you'll get an agenda, and we'll have more chance to look at those ones. Sorry, Peter.
So we could change them then if we needed to.
You can not the ones that we're going if you say yes to these ones, it's the other ones that in here you'll see it says warrants a better letter.
Yeah.
Peter.
Through you, your worship, and to add, that also will take into account those more complex ones can take into account decisions today, which couldn't have been done before now.
Yep. Questions for Peter? Councillor.
Oh, sorry, it's not a question. Okay, just on page 114, submitter states the hub is no longer a memorial hall for our fallen brave men of fought in wars. Promises are made to the community, but once again, no to. I think it would be good to reply to that submitter that the hall is now the Luther War Memorial Hall. What's its full name? Sorry.
Yeah, and there's also a memorial project underway that's in its stages, so it's not been forgotten about.
So we are still.
Sorry, what page was that?
144. Sorry, 144.
Yep. So I note that when I was going through it, and I was writing notes all the way through, but know that because it's got a letter from me, and I thought, well, really, one of the dominant themes is why don't you spend on core services? And one of my dominant replies, so you know, will be 92% of what the increases are on roads, rubbish, and water. So if that covers any of your questions there, know that I'll try and do it in the letter. If there was a theme more than wordsmithing, and I've been smart, but hey, remember to sort of say this. If you have it and you can see that I can include them in the letter, and that covers any concerns you might have, come and see me. Has anyone got Councillor Vowell followed by Lederman?
Page 130 near the top. Cam Luke, just, you also note it says 15.9 spent on 3 waters at the Scuttle. 15.9 million spent on 3 waters. I'm not sure what he means by that. Page? 130.
All the way through, there was some quite contentious statements made, and I suppose we could go back in the letters and hit every one of them up, but what do you do, Bruce? Because I haven't got a clue what he meant by that. It hasn't been scuttled, and I can't think at any point where there was 15.9. Councillor Ludeman.
Can I suggest that this is extremely late in the day and we're over it? And these letters will not be going out until after the next council meeting when the annual plan is adopted. And in actual fact, these could all be put forward at that meeting when perhaps we might have clearer heads or have time to reply back to staff if we're not happy with some of the suggestions. But in actual fact, these letters won't be going out after the next meeting. So we actually are over it for the day.
Yeah. It will give me a chance to possibly do my letter, and you can see whether that covers any of the bases. You got a problem with that, Peter? Righto, so do I say that this lies on the table, or it comes to us in a council agenda? Way round I don't say.
Look, we just really make it simple by, receive the annual report, which is number 1, and let's just do a second resolution that the responses to submitters will be deferred to the adoption of the annual report, or adoption of the annual report meeting.
I'm happy to read that. I have a second.
Annual plan meeting.
Second, Councillor Finch. What, something else?
Yeah, there's so many people out there that don't understand our financials, and a lot was put in that we were in no debt. Now we're in a huge debt. Can we please explain how that came about? Not every cent, but we need, like Jeff Seymour years ago did a fact sheet. This is what you get for your rate. You get your rubbish, your sewage, you get these things. And it is good value for money. People out there just don't understand how we come to where we are. And I think something like that needs to be explained. And
This will be something we'll be able to go through and do at the next meeting game. That we're going to put all this on the table and those and many other discussions will happen on the day. Do we have? No, we're close to meeting. That's it, isn't it? Well, thanks, guys. That was a huge day.